Hi, I'm Charlie, I'm back. We need to talk. What game changed your life? What game was so influential that it changed the course of gaming forever? There are so many games out there. So many that completely changed the way we see the entire industry as a whole. From the very first Super Mario Bros. To Doom, so many games throughout history influenced the games we play today. So hi, I'm Charlie, I'm back, and let's talk about the games that changed a generation. We're animators. Of course we have a year break between uploads.
Elvis Presley died today.
1977. A small company known as Nintendo has teamed up with Mitsubishi Electronics to create the Color TV game. A group of consoles that all were some of the most basic games possible. Super Mario World released in Japan in 1990 and was known as Super Mario Bros. 4. The true sequel to Super Mario Bros. 3 and a follow-up that would change a generation of gamers until the end of time. It wasn't Nintendo's first foray into the video game market. That was the light gun toys that worked with the Magnavox Odyssey, the very first video game console ever, but the Color TV game was the very first console Nintendo ever made that was technically their own thing. But Nintendo wanted more. See, at the arcades, games looked better. The Sega Mega Drive was coming out, or as you Americans call it, the Genesis. The most powerful console in terms of graphics ever. It's the 1980s now, and Nintendo has just shown their brand new console at the Tokyo Game Show, and it's competing against Sega's SG-1000, which was the original version of the Sega Master System, and they're getting ready to release what they're calling the Famicom, or the Family Computer. Nintendo had the NES currently, but in 1989, this just wasn't comparable to what was in the arcades anymore. The NES was created in order to be at the same level as what there was in arcades, as what was in the past wasn't great. But now the arcade machines have completely passed what the NES could do and more. The arcades were out here pushing 16-bit graphics as if it was nothing, and now Sega had done just that at home. You've all heard of the video game crash of 1983, right?
I'm pretty sure everyone's heard of that by now.
It's kind of the thing you always talk about when you talk about video games for a living. So you know what it is. But for those who don't know what it is, who is he talking to?
Them! Subscribe!
Okay, so this one is just funny. Overwatch 2 is one of the worst reviewed games on Steam by far. I assume the main complaint is the fact that it replaced a perfectly working game with a stupid dum-dum game, which makes sense. My friend Grampsy always goes on about how bad E.T. was, which was of course buried by Atari in a desert because of how bad it was, but other games released on these consoles were bad too. And one of them was Donkey Kong. Donkey Kong, the arcade game, changed the generation. There's no doubt about that. From its simple gameplay to its infinite replayability, Donkey Kong in the arcades was incredible. I purchased the original Overwatch and now I can't even play it. Instead, it's been replaced with whatever the hell this thing is. And now that I've played Overwatch 2, yeah, what happened there? The Super Famicom was of course more powerful than the Famicom, which led the Nintendo development teams to needing to learn a new hardware in order to make new software. So that's what they did. So I have the game on Steam, but first I need to get a Battle.net account. Then I need to connect my phone number. Then I need to do some training. Then I need to do some more training. And then, and finally then, you can actually play a game of Overwatch 2. This one game, the one game that truly changed the generation more than any other game, was Super Mario Bros.
Why did it take you so long to get to the point?
Well, I'm sorry I couldn't keep your attention to talk about the most important video game of all time.
On the morning of August 7th, I saw a YouTube notification from Nintendo that said Red Dead Redemption, and I was blown away. Yes, Red Dead Redemption received a port to not just Switch, but PlayStation 4 as well. It was a straight port, but man, I did not care. Now what did the rest of the internet think?
What the heck is that?
This sucks.
This sucks.
All of the original few games changed the way we look at video games to this day. It started the video game revolution more so than anything else. Super Mario Bros. And especially Super Mario Bros. 3 changed the way we look at life. And it also helped with the creation of the revolutionary game Doom.
Sir! Sir!
Yes, Bomb.
Can we finally talk about Chrono Trigger?
Fine. You know Final Fantasy, right?
One of the many ideas thought of for Super Mario Bros. 4 was this thing that Shigeru Miyamoto had on his wall for about 5 years at this point. A drawing of Mario riding a dinosaur. The concept came from all the way back during the development of the very first game. Shigeru Miyamoto really wanted Mario to have a dinosaur companion, but the limitations on the NES made it impossible. It doesn't mean he stopped trying though.
And it takes forever to get into a game too. I mean, come on, what's even the point of playing the game if no one else wants to play? Wii Sports Resort, and Nintendo Switch Sports. 3 games that, although have mixed reviews on one in particular, all are different games within the Wii Sports series. They all have their own identity, but there's one outlier in the series that just doesn't really fit, and that's Wii Sports Club. What the hell is this game even supposed to be?
This game has very positive reviews on Steam, but once you actually play it, it's like, just okay. Thinking with Time Machine takes place after the events of Portal 2, revealing the fact that at the end of Portal 2, instead of going into the open and escaping Aperture, you only have the illusion of escaping Aperture before realizing that the facility has one more thing up its sleeve. Now you're thrown into a whole new strand of test chambers with one new gimmick. A handheld time machine. The dinosaur became known as Yoshi, or Yoshi, and this snowballed into the rest of Super Mario World's development.
The worst Portal mod that I have ever played through is Portal Forbidden Testing Tracks. If you ignore Portal 2 Confinement, which I don't think we need to talk about why it may not be so great. But if that was their A team, what was their D team developing?
Chrono Trigger. Yeah, Chrono Trigger. This was being developed by the D team.
Now this one truly feels as if it was the first time this person has ever made a Portal 2 mod. It is riddled with levels clearly made with the inbuilt level editor, which is completely fine, that is what it is made for. But when it comes to releasing a mod on Steam, you kinda want it to be a bit better than something made in the inbuilt level editor.
The initial idea behind the game, and really the initial idea behind any Mario game, is to not only make the game fun to veteran players of the Mario series, but to also make the game more accessible to any new players. Make it possible for a literal newborn to pick up a game and be able to play it easy peasy.
Okay, maybe not an actual newborn, but you get the idea.
Wii Sports Club is the Wii U's Wii Sports, but it's really just a HD version of the original Wii Sports, and it's not even that good. It somehow removes stuff from the original game, coded under this dull HD remake of Wii Sports for the Wii, a game you could already play on the Wii U. In Super Mario Bros. 3, we had the introduction of the world map, a way to show how each level connects to each other all on one giant map. However, the levels still felt a bit disconnected because each level was just a black box with a number in it. Well, when we move over to Super Mario World, the levels are just small little yellow or red dots on the ground with stuff around it showing what level it truly will be. It really makes each level stand out within this little world, and I think it really works quite well. This game eventually got a sequel on the PlayStation known as Chrono Cross that was published worldwide by a joint venture between Square and EA. Yeah, that EA. In Super Mario World, throughout the game, there are different switches to activate different blocks, and throughout the levels, you see different dotted line blocks.
These blocks were implemented to almost have an easy, medium, and hard mode. Shigeru Miyamoto wasn't exactly a fan of games that just had a difficulty setting for like easy, medium, and hard, so he wanted to almost implement that difficulty setting into the game itself, so to speak, which is exactly what he did. If you want to activate these switches, it makes the levels easier. Every day after a hard day's work at Nintendo, Satoru Iwata would go home and swing his Wii remote around and chill out playing the original Wii Sports. This seemingly became tradition in the
Iwata household, as he'd spend hours playing the game to the point of sweating just playing Wii Sports. Super Mario World opens with the Mario gang going on a trip to Dinosaur Island after the events of Super Mario Bros. 3. They picked Dinosaur Island because it seems like a magical place, cause I mean, I get it. However, when Mario and Luigi got to Dinosaur Island, they find out that Bowser is back, trapping Yoshis in magical eggs, and have kidnapped the princess once again. So of course, Mario and Luigi end up going on an adventure to save her. As they beat each castle, they save another Yoshi, and they get closer and closer to Bowser. And the Koopalings are back from Super Mario Bros. 3. Let's take it back to the release of Super Mario Bros. 3.
Oh god, not again.
World 1 is Yoshi's Island. Yes, like the name of the other game. How cool. You're a police officer, and you do police stuff, I think. I really didn't know what was going on. The game is so hilarious though. Like, the way the characters move, the cars, it's funny. But the amount of loading screens between each section of the game kinda ruins it. Wii Sports Resort is of course an incredible game, there's no doubt about that. That wasn't a part of the problem whatsoever. What was the problem is that the upcoming console, the Wii U, was coming with a brand new controller, the gamepad, and you couldn't play the original Wii Sports on it.
Well, I mean, you can play the original Wii Sports on a Wii U. The footage you just watched is footage recorded on a Wii U. But I guess there's no native version of Wii Sports that uses the Wii U gamepad in its gameplay. And Satoru Iwata knew that.
People loved Super Mario Bros. 3, and two of those people were John Carmack and Tom Hall. They loved it so much, in fact, that they decided to remake the entire first level of Super Mario Bros. 3, and the third member of John and Tom's friend group, John Romero, saw the little demo they made and loved it. So they decided to make a larger version of the demo, creating a PC version of Super Mario Bros. 3, and thought it would be a good idea to send it to Nintendo.
Why the hell would you do that? You know Nintendo's history. Oh yeah, September 1990. You ready for some more free Steam trash?
Paintball War. Where do I even get started? The first time I played Paintball War, it was 2019. And my god, I didn't enjoy it whatsoever. Paintball War is a very simple shooting game where you shoot your opponents with paintballs. The screenshots on Steam make this game look really good, but if you play the damn thing, it doesn't look like that. World 2 also has the first proper underground level and the first ghost house, a new concept to this very game. Ghost houses are similar to castles, like we just played in World 1 and in the previous Mario games, but it doesn't have a boss at the end. Instead, the main point is to avoid the tens of boos that are trying to kill you the whole time. It's a lot of fun, but if I'm gonna be honest, I'm kinda sick of ghost houses.
Look, they're new in this game, but I think just after playing so many modern Mario games that just have ghost houses constantly and over again, I think I'm just sick of the concept in its entirety.
There's a sequel called Paintball War 2, and that's where all the fancy screenshots are from. They're from the sequel. The first game doesn't even launch anymore. It just tells you to buy their second game, which isn't even free. This one was free.
I love Mario, both playing the games and talking about them. And I'm sure if there was a multiverse out there, everyone else would also love talking about Mario.
Super Mario 3D World may have released on the Wii U in 2014, but I don't think this game's real. At least we're not talking about the Nintendo Switch eShop. That would be utter hell.
Have you ever heard of the Nintendo Wii? Try the IQ Wii. And just like that, he had a spark. Why not make a version of Wii Sports for the Wii U? Almost like a remake of the original game, but have it involve the Wii Motion Plus accessory and the new gamepad. And maybe chuck in some online play and Miiverse support, the upcoming social media created for the 3DS and Wii U. But they didn't want to have Mario appear on any other platform that wasn't a Nintendo platform. Super Mario Bros. Print World for MS-DOS was released in March 1991. I don't think they had that much of a problem.
Obviously, having the entirety of Super Mario Bros. 3 is a bit different to having Super Mario Bros. Print World on PC. Super Mario Bros. 3 is an entire game. Super Mario Bros. Print World is like Mario Paint.
World 4 is next, and it's the shortest world out of them all. But it makes sense. because the entire world is a bridge that goes from one side of the island to the other. In China, video games have been banned for an extremely long time. Nintendo needed some sort of brand in order to legally release their video games in China, and even then, these games had to go through an immense amount of censorship, and that's still the case. But in more recent years, China has become slightly more looser, which led Nintendo to finally release the Nintendo Switch in China under the Nintendo name.
Kinda. Hi, I'm Charlie, I'm back, and today, I'm here to tell you the tale of the day. Team Fortress 2 died. Hi, I'm Charlie, I'm back, and Dragalia Lost was the very first and only original Nintendo IP made for mobile phones. It's now E3 2011, and something incredible was going to be announced. The Wii U, of course!
Look, I'm not the first guy to say that this initial trailer was bad, and I won't be the last guy to say it either, but to say that this trailer didn't work is an understatement. If we ignore, well, the fact that the first game that showed off was a modified version of New Super Mario Bros. Wii and barely showed the console and just the controller, making it seem like it was an add-on for the original Wii.
Did you know they made a new controller?
Anyway, we move on to World 6, otherwise known as Chocolate Island. If you couldn't figure out by now, all of the different worlds in this game are named after flavors, and all of these themes were used in Super Mario Kart, and created their own company alongside Adrian Carmack, who isn't related to John Carmack whatsoever. The Wikipedia article makes it very known. You've heard of Tencent, right? If not, Tencent is a giant Chinese media company that has released all forms of media, with one of their major parts of their company being Tencent Games. Tencent Games has helped out with releasing some major games in China, such as Minecraft, City Skylines, Stardew Valley, along with making some of their own games, along with also owning major stakes in large video game companies like Supercell, Turtle Rock Studios, Riot Games, Platinum Games, and even Discord, and helped inspire the creation of something even better.
Doom. There's not really that much to be said about Doom that I haven't already said about Wolfenstein 3D, but it's well known that Doom led the generation into the future. I said the future! There we go.
Yeah, this game only has 7 worlds, just like Super Mario Bros. 2.
The American Super Mario Bros. 2. Lost Levels has 13 worlds.
And the updated controls they had for golf, including a first-person view on the TV, which isn't even in the final game.
Back in the day, I used to play Team Fortress 2 all the time. I got into almost every single little niche you can think of within the game. One of my first major interests was actually the trading scene and the item scene. Yeah, I was one of those people who had trade.tf in their Steam username. Snake Man's level is one of my favorites. It's challenging but fair. And the design of Snake Man is just so cool.
Whoa. They began with the IQ Player in 2003.
Now logically, you would think that a console coming out in 2003 would be somehow connected to the GameCube, right?
No. Instead, this is a Nintendo 64, and is supposed to be a handheld console, but in the same vein as like a plug-and-play console. The story of Dragalia Lost is actually quite complicated. It starts in the town of Alberia, which apparently there's dragons. The dragons, of course, have a power and the royals want to have it. They manage to work things out with those dragons, and if they form some sort of special bond with them, they can also gain their powers. That's the basic idea behind the entire plot of the game. But then the story just continues and goes on and on. There's 26 chapters. I can't sum that up in 2 minutes.
Animal Crossing was originally a game for the Nintendo 64 known as Animal Forest, just in case you were wondering. Then it was re-released on the GameCube once it got out to America and everywhere else. And then Japan got 2 other versions of the game, being Animal Forest or Animal Crossing Plus, and then Animal Crossing or Forest E for the e-reader.
Quake's incredible behind-the-scenes workings within the Quake engine led it to be one of the biggest games of all time.
So do you want to know what came out the next day? How the hell did this happen?
You beat Bowser and save the princess, and probably return back to Princess Peach's castle. Maybe this is why she bakes you a cake at the start of Super Mario 64. Maybe that's the lore. I don't know, I'm just making things up. And we also see their idea for what Zelda would look like. Oh wait, never mind. Never mind. Doesn't matter. Now once again, you would think that the IQ player being a Nintendo 64, it would have been quickly dropped for Nintendo's next console, but nope! The IQ player was supported until 2016 and was taken offline in 2018. That's right, an official Nintendo 64 was supported by Nintendo up until the Nintendo Switch's second year of life. So often I'd go on idle servers, leave my computer on before I go to school, and then come back, turn those items into metal, and then see what I could craft the metal into to get higher stuff in the trading sphere. I wanted to get a key, and I wanted it so badly. I knew everything about the trading market of Team Fortress 2. I'd watch videos, study trade.tf, and see what I could do to get a key. Really, I just wanted the keys to get higher and higher in the TF2 market. God, I miss those times. The IQ DS, otherwise known as the Dual Screen Multimedia Interactive System, released in China with Nintendogs pre-installed. There's not much to say about the DS. The game also managed to have several crossovers with a random selection of franchises. It crossed over with Fire Emblem, Mega Man, Monster Hunter, and Persona 5 Strikers. What? They also released a 3DS. And forgot to put any games on the console! But one thing remained on the developer's mind throughout the game's development. If we include this Miiverse thing, won't the players end up hating each other? Would it shock you that this thought is what led to this game having at least a little bit of its own identity? They thought that the solution to players being hostile towards each other was to make every player join a club so that only the clubs would fight, not the players. Don't ask how this helps solve the problem. I don't get it either. It doesn't actually make any sense. But when trying to develop the game, the SNES controller actually made it difficult to come up with a good working 3D Mario game. So development moved over to the newly in development Nintendo 64. What if we released the game in small little parts? Genuinely, what were they thinking? Here we go. Tubular. What's gonna be so hard? Okay, so that was definitely just pointless. Okay, well I think I'm supposed to do this. So, okay, this isn't good. What do I do here? Uh-oh. Oh, frickin' a biscuit. I don't think the Wii U came out in any of those countries. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I haven't found any source anywhere telling me that the Wii U actually came out in any of those countries. They would have had to have imported them from Japan. However, this is how IQ comes into play. IQ really wanted to release the Wii in China to coincide with the 2008 Olympic Games, but it just never happened. Even Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games was meant to be a launch title with the IQ Wii. However, I did also get into the trolling scene of Team Fortress 2. Did you ever play those community servers where there'd be someone who had like a baby voice speaking and making fun of you and stuff like that?
Please just be clear with a voice changer, please.
Yeah, that was me. And even playing the game now, even though the camera isn't all that fantastic, the game is still incredible. The game just works so damn well. Super Mario 64 is such a powerful game that not only did it change a generation when the game came out, but as people continue to play it as time goes on, it still changes a generation. What the frick is that thing? It's now September 2013. The Wii U is not doing well, and Nintendo were hyping up the release of their new upcoming game. Wii Fit U. Wii games in China did eventually come out in 2018, yes, after the Nintendo Switch, and it released on the Nvidia Shield portable console. These games were HD versions of these Wii games, and honestly are some of the best ways to play them. You had games like Donkey Kong Country Returns, New Super Mario Bros. Wii, and Super Mario Galaxy, which looks like the basis of the Super Mario 3D All-Stars version of the game, and Mario Kart Wii. Oh, Mario Kart Wii was cancelled because the government stopped it. Doing the baby voice, I was 10 at the time, so it kind of was just my voice, but I had so much fun. You are a super player. Ooh. See? What did I say? We get it, Charlie. You think all of these games changed a generation. Oh, but there's so much more! Final Fantasy VII, The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, Mario Galaxy, Half-Life, there's so many!
Yeah, but I feel like you've been going on for too long. You gotta wrap it up. It's almost lunchtime.
You're right. They had an entire Wii Fit U Direct, a version of a Nintendo Direct, but just for Wii Fit U. But at the end of the presentation, Nintendo had one last announcement, and it had nothing to do with Wii Fit. It was Wii Sports Club. I hope you figured that one out by now. Now, China wasn't the only country to get Nintendo games released under a different name. See, South Korea and Japan didn't really have that great of a relationship. So when Nintendo wanted to release the NES in South Korea, they couldn't. So they needed some sort of loophole to be able to release the NES in South Korea without it being made by Nintendo, because that's a Japanese company. Nintendo contacted their friends over at Hyundai, yes, the car company, to release the NES as the Hyundai Comboy. The game sadly shut down in late 2022, and it's not stated as to why. But the game didn't really get fantastic reviews, so it may have seemed like it was just bleeding Nintendo out of money.
I can't imagine a world without Super Mario Odyssey.
What the hell am I supposed to do with this?
I mean, you can put it on one of these shelves.
Video games changed the generation, but that's what all forms of media do. Other movies completely change people. Films like Back to the Future, Star Wars, The Avengers, Snow White, whatever it is. Media can completely change someone's perspective on life for the better. But something you may have noticed is that everything I mentioned is from at least 10 years ago, if not more. It really makes you question, is art dead? Is everything we know about art dead? Was Bo Burnham right? The game was announced to launch with two of the sports, bowling and tennis, with the rest of the sports being added at a later date. They also added like a subscription service. It was weird. In gaming, we usually see so many different types of levels. Big houses like in Super Mario Land 2, grassy plains like in every game ever, but there's only one that feels extremely magical. One that just has those vibes, you know? And that's snow levels. I've talked about them before in my personal time, but I don't think I really got my point across. It's finally time to deep dive into what snow levels are in video games and why they're so good. The console is pretty much identical to a normal NES, to the point where in English it literally says Nintendo Entertainment System Korean version. And only a very small amount of games actually came out for the console, being Anticipation, Balloon Fight, Batman, Blaster Master, Bubble Bobble, Castlevania 1 and 2, Cobra Triangle, Double Dribble, Vaccinated, Ghosts and Goblins, Goonies 2, Gunsmoke, Hogan's Alley, Ice Climber, Ice Hocker, Kit, Icarus, Knight Rider, Kung Fu, The Legend of Zelda 1 and 2, Life Force, Mega Man 3, Metal Gear, Metroid, Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, Pinbot, Pro Wrestling, RC Pro, Rad Racer, Robo Warrior, Rygar, Duck Hunt, Super Mario Bros., Super Mario Bros. 2, Super Mario Bros. 3, Super Spike, V-Ball, Tetris, Tiger Heli, To the Earth, Top Gun, Track and Field 2, and Trojan. Not much, I know. Not only is it completely stupid to only release 2 of the games when the original Wii Sports released with all 5 games, these are exactly the same as they played in Wii Sports. You could just play the original game and get the exact same experience. I think Back to the Future really changed me. I love that movie. I'm a huge fan of Star Wars, personally. What do you think, Luigi? Great. Thank you for truly being one of the best games of all time. Who could that be? This better be good.
Is this the Return to Dinosaur Island helpline?
Yeah, it is. I thought I had this phone line shut down.
Watch out for Pandora, Charlie. 11 more days.
Well, that was weird. And then in December, they finally added golf. Thank God they added golf. Mario Kart Double Dash is the 4th game in the Mario Kart series, and personally, it's probably one of, if not the best game in the series. Which I find really weird, because my childhood Mario Kart game was Mario Kart Wii. I did play Mario Kart Double Dash at the same time, along with many other GameCube games, but Mario Kart Wii, DS, and 7 were my main 3 Mario Kart games, until Mario Kart 8 came out and took over. Now, here's a fun fact for you. There's actually a 2003 video game called Snow. It released on the Dreamcast, the PlayStation 2, and the PSP. The game actually eventually got turned into a novel, manga, and more. Snow is such an interesting concept for a game. I imagine the game is just really cutesy and fun and great for the whole fam.
Oh, it's an adult visual novel.
Instead of teaming up with Hyundai, Sega went to Samsung to release the Game Boy.
I wish I was making this stuff up. Sega released the Game Boy before Nintendo did.
What was the first console you played Super Mario Bros. On? Was it the NES, or were you someone who first played it on the Wii Virtual Console? No matter the case, we can all agree that this game has been re-released to death. But somehow, it's always the same version of this game. It's not remade. Well, unless you play Super Mario All-Stars on the SNES or Super Mario Bros. Deluxe. So how is that possible?
Emulation! Almost every modern Nintendo console has some sort of emulation embedded into the console itself, with the most popular official Nintendo emulation being
Virtual Console
2020. The year that never happened. The year that was the start of the new decade. The year that it all went wrong.
This game was a free sports game that released on Windows and PS4 and developed using the CryEngine, and yet was published by Sony themselves on the PS4. The game was supposed to be a games as a service type game, similar to games like Fortnite and the such, and have constant updates that add more and more content. The game was published by Sony purely because Sony at the time had a free-to-play development team, so they were the best people to do it. The game released in early access on Steam in 2013 and eventually on the PS4 in 2016. And it wasn't free.
What?
Mario Kart Double Dash is the 4th Mario Kart in the series, and was first teased at E3 2001 before eventually being re-revealed in April 2003 with many promised things in the game, like promising Mario, Luigi, Bowser and Donkey Kong appearing, higher polygon models, 4-player local support, and yes, up to 16 players via LAN play. And you might be thinking how this was physically possible because there's only 8 races at once. Well, what if I told you there's actually 16 races per race? And that's the main point behind Mario Kart Double Dash. And then they finally released a physical version of the game in order to boost sales of the digital version. What? You have 2 characters to think about. 2 characters to switch between in the middle of a race. The whole idea behind this game is the number 2. Everything is in doubles. It's almost a double dash. I know, that was a good one. Yeah, so unlike what they said, this free-to-play game, you actually had to pay for, because they wanted a limited amount of people playing the beta. The game eventually came out in 2019, and then the servers were taken down, and the game was never heard from since. You thought Concord was the first time Sony did something like that? Nah, Snow was first. Snow is always first. They needed someone to distribute the upcoming Sega Dreamcast. So who did they turn to?
You've gotta be kidding me, Hyundai again?
The Wii had the NES, SNES, Nintendo 64, Arcade, Master System, Mega Drive, Commodore 64, MSX, TurboGrafx 16, and the Neo Geo AES.
Have you heard of almost half of these consoles?
Consoles like the Game Gear, Atari Lynx, and Jaguar, I've dabbled in their libraries, but I haven't actually found any games I like. And stuff like the PS Vita, Virtual Boy, Sega Master System, Saturn, and Dreamcast, I just have flat out no experience with. But these are more niche consoles, one I doubt anyone will go.
You don't have a favorite Virtual Boy game?
But in case anyone is like that, Wario Land looks okay.
At some point in either 2017 or 2018, data was stolen from Valve. And in 2020, the data for Counter-Strike Global Offensive and Team Fortress 2 was leaked to the Source Engine licensees. Look, data leaks happen, whatever. I mean, not whatever, it's bad when it happens, but get the idea. A bit of a bonus is if you have an SNES Mini, you can use these controllers on the Wii to play the SNES games the best way possible. But if you also own an SNES Mini, you could just play the games on the SNES Mini.
Anyway, I've got my Snow appointment now. I better run.
Cut! That was another good one, Charlie.
So why did you want me to talk about Super Mario Land 2 and snow levels?
Come to my office.
And speaking of items, not only does this game have a lot of the usual Mario Kart items like the mushrooms, bananas, shells and more, there's now special items. You may notice that every character is put into a duo, like Mario and Luigi, Wario and Waluigi and more. Each of these duos have a certain item linked to them. Mario and Luigi have the Fireball. Peach and Daisy have the Heart. Yoshi and Birdo have eggs. Baby Mario and Baby Luigi have the Chain Chomp. Toad and Toadette have the Golden Mushroom, which, you know what that does. And Koopa Troopa and Paratroopa have the Triple Shells. Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong have the Giant Banana. Bowser and Bowser Jr. have the Bowser Shell, which is just a shell but bigger. And Wario and Waluigi have a Bob-omb. Yes, Wii Sports Club, I think, was originally intended to be a digital-only product, something to boost the Nintendo eShop on the Wii U more than anything. But later Nintendo kinda realized how ridiculously stupid of an idea that was, and released it physically. Wii Sports Club, I think, failed from just that decision alone, and also because it released on the Wii U. The track after Peach Beach is Baby Park, and Baby Park is fun, but I feel like this should be in like the Special Cup, because this is not a good Mushroom Cup track. Baby Park is just 7 laps of the exact same thing with an insane amount of chaos happening on the track, and although I find Baby Park quite fun, it just doesn't fit in the Mushroom Cup. But hey, it's still fun. Well, Grampsy, what are we doing here?
Well, in my old age, I've been trying to get into more and more businesses. The one I was thinking of is making video essays about video games and put them on YouTube. So I thought it'd be interesting to get a young guy like yourself to talk about them, because you're an interesting demographic. And I know for a fact you talk about video games yourself anyway. Hey, would you mind if we look at one of those? I need them for inspiration.
Okay. But how could I forget the most fascinating release that Nintendo ever did? In Australia, the NES is the Mattel version. You remember tennis from the original game, right? Bright, colourful, an energetic announcer. Well, what if, and hear me out here, we suck all the colour out of it and make the announcer bored out of his brain? It just doesn't look good. The final track for the Mushroom Cup is Dry Dry Desert. I'm just not a fan of the Desert Mario Kart tracks. What was the first console you played Super Mario Brothers on?
So you edit these yourself?
Yeah.
Alongside re-releasing games in different ways. Nintendo had 3D Classics, a way to play some of their older games with 3D, alongside
I don't
Sega
get it.
doing pretty
You
much
call
the
this
same
one
thing.
the
Things
complete
went
history of
through
emulation, yet this isn't actually the complete history of emulation. It's only like the Nintendo parts of emulation, and even then it's not even the complete history of that.
Well, I just make these videos for me, so I don't think it really matters what I call it.
Wii Play is one of the most successful games on the Wii, but most of that success came from the fact that the most popular way to get this game was a 2-pack with the game plus the Wii Remote. But is that game that came with the Wii Remote actually good?
You probably own this game, but did you ever play it for more than like 10 seconds? I really didn't. I've owned this game for quite a while, but I've never really played it all that much. So I decided to finally play through every single minigame in the game and rank every single one of them.
We begin with Sherbet Land, and you know how much I like snow levels. If you don't remember, the DS and DS Lite had a Game Boy Advance slot, and directly had the parts to run a Game Boy Advance game. But when the DSi came out, they got rid of that slot. By June, Valve had to introduce more and more ways to stop the bots, such as restricting people who hadn't put any money toward Team Fortress 2 from typing in the chat, using the voice chat, and more stuff like that, along with it being impossible to change your Steam username while in a game to prevent a bot from taking your identity, which, yeah, actually did happen. However, they never actually got rid of the ability to play Game Boy Advance games. The DSi still has the capability to play Game Boy Advance games, therefore the 3DS also still has the capability to play Game Boy Advance games. So the games available here are just the digital files for the games on the 3DS, the same way you'd buy a 3DS retail game or buy a DSiWare game on the 3DS, making it, technically, not emulation. The 3DS is capable of Game Boy Advance emulation through hacking, but I guess if it's easier to do it without emulation, you may as well. Remember the NES game Duck Hunt?
Well, now you can play it in Wii Play. Well, it's not exactly the same as it is in Duck Hunt. Oh no, this is pretty much an extended version of Duck Hunt, and that's kind of what Wii Play feels like. These are all extended black box NES games, or at least what you would expect to be black box NES games. The first game is a bit hard to control, but I think that's just the position I was sitting in. This Duck Hunt game is pretty fun. It's pretty easy to get into, and it's pretty fun to play all things considered. May 2022. The bot problem gets worse. A hashtag by the name of SaveTF2 was born after seemingly Valve had stopped caring about the bot problem. The bots were everywhere. Every single time you even attempted to try and play the game, you were greeted to an onslaught of bots. They were everywhere, along with the voice chat going absolutely crazy. Next is Find Me. I hate this game, but I also love this game. I love this game for the first 5 rounds, and then afterwards it's dumb and stupid and it sucks. As I said, the Star Cup is the best cup in this game. But the next cup has one of the best tracks in the game, 2 of the worst tracks in the game, and one about dinosaurs. Bowling has 3 modes this time round, which were the same 3 modes that are in Wii Sports Resort, and are the same 3 modes that you can find if you look hard enough in the original Wii Sports. Hi, I'm Charlie, I'm back, and welcome to 1999.
Pause the video!
PlayStation.
That phrase you just said.
Hi, I'm Charlie, I'm back.
Yeah! I was thinking while watching back the Super Mario Land 2 one and the Snow Level one that you should have some sort of catchphrase that you say in every single one of these. And that's it!
But the 5th round you're given a category where it says you're meant to pick the odd ones out. What? What does that mean? Then you get a bunch of me's on your screen and they all look different. I don't get it. When they show me which ones were the odd ones out when I lose, I still don't get it. I don't get this game. I don't get it. B tier. However, the SNES games were available exclusively on the new 3DS, as the old 3DS couldn't handle SNES games. What? Yeah, the old 3DS is perfectly capable of playing the SNES, and it works pretty well too. Maybe Nintendo really wanted something to sell the new 3DS, or hackers could do what Nintendo don't. On the gamepad, you can see the ball you're hitting. That is the extent of the gameplay on the gamepad. That's all it does. It just has the ball there. You can see the golf club when you swing it over the gamepad. There's not really much going on here. I don't like Bowser's Castle in any Mario Kart game ever. It's stupid. I've complained about this literally every other time I've talked about a Mario Kart game. Who cares? It's Bowser's Castle. It's the same. It's lava. Wow, cool. I can't take it anymore.
I've failed.
Nikes.
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 On May 27th, or the 26th if you live in the past, 2022, the Team Fortress Twitter account tweeted, "TF2 community, we hear you. We love the game and know you do too. We see how large this issue has become and we are working to improve things." Oh my god. They're saving Team Fortress 2! They're doing it! They heard us! They're finally gonna do. Oh hey! I'm just playing Skylanders Spyro's Adventure on my Nintendo Wii. What could that be? Oh my god, they still haven't fixed Team Fortress 2. But after every peak, there must be a downfall. Did the Wii U do anything right? Yeah, nah. Next is table tennis, and you're never gonna guess how this one works. How does it work? Well, I'm glad you asked me. The Rainbow Road in this game, though, as per usual, is fantastic. I really enjoy this Rainbow Road, and the music too. I love it so much. I don't think I've ever loved something as much as I love this. I love Rainbow Road. Now, for some reason, I went to launch boxing, and it came up with a thing saying, hey, the age rating is different on boxing, you might want to check it. And it lists it as G, the lowest possible rating it could be. I don't even know why this is a disclaimer in the game. What?
So you'll let me use your personal ones and put them on YouTube, right?
No thank you.
Oh, come on!
Anything is better than Wii Sports Club. Anything. It's called a road, it's called a rainbow road. It is a road that you go. It's called a road, it's called a rainbow road. And you will know when you get there. It's called a road, it's called a rainbow road. It is a road that you go. It's a road that you go when you die. It's a road called Rainbow Road. It's a road we're all gonna go. It's a road called Rainbow Road. It's got Princess Peach, Mario, and the Toad. It's a road called Rainbow Road. It's a road we're all gonna go. We'll go. A tier. Pose Me is one of the worst minigames in the entire game.
Don't hurt me!
It begins to mix up the different positions you have to be in, and now if you miss one, you completely die and it's game over. I of course died almost immediately, but hey, that doesn't make it bad. It being boring makes it bad. It's just so weird. Why is there weird pictures in the background? Why is this game so hard? F tier. This is an F tier game if I've ever seen it. But you know what's better? Mario Kart Super Circuit, of course. Just kidding. The emulation works great on the Switch. I mean, it took a while, but it works great now. And IQ, yes, the Nintendo Chinese division, worked on the Nintendo 64 emulators alongside some of the others too. But Nintendo isn't the only company that uses emulation to its advantage. I bought a PS2 game on the PS5 and it uses PS2 emulation for it to exist. It's Toy Story 2, by the way, but there's really not that much to talk about it besides from the fact that you can play PS1, PS2, and PSP games on a PS5. Obviously with the PS4 it's not emulation, it just runs it, and then PS3 can go fuck itself. The next one is Billiards. This is also terrible. I decided in the year of our Lord 2024 to play Team Fortress 2 after seeing the Outcry to actually fix this game, and it got a petition of over 200,000, now 300,000 signatures to fix this thing, and I was greeted with bots. Just so many bots! It's Rainbow Road, it's where you go when you die, it's Rainbow Road. I'll miss you again, I'm cold. It's Rainbow Road, it's where you go when you die, it's Rainbow Road. I'll miss you again on Rainbow Road. Hi, I'm Charlie, I'm back, and I genuinely don't know what happened there.
Thank you guys. All of you.
I like 8-Ball for iPhone, but I do not enjoy this thing in Wii Play. I don't know how anyone could enjoy this rubbish. I really wanted to enjoy Billiards, I really did, but it sucks. F tier. Hi, I'm Charlie, I'm back, and you know what? I'm bored. I may own all of these games, but I don't want to play any of them. Which is why I've introduced the Game Wheel of Doom. Don't worry, it's nothing important. You only die if you don't do the thing that the wheel lands on. Mario ROM hacks are popular from all over the internet and all over the history of video games. From Kaizo Mario World to newer Super Mario Bros. Wii, most of these ROM hacks are created to add things to the games that people love. So why don't we just add a character to the game? You ever wanted to play Super Mario Brothers? Well, how about Super Wario Brothers? In this ROM hack, you play as Wario. Yeah, that's it. PC emulation. No, the emulators itself isn't piracy.
I swear, Nintendo, don't shoot me!
You want to know the day Team Fortress 2 died? It was May 27th, 2022. Valve have done nothing to fix the problem with the game whatsoever. But most people download ROMs from the internet.
That's the game itself.
From some random website, which is illegal. But if you manage to have a device that you can get your games legally from, like something that backs them up, then you should be all good. But the more interesting ROM hack is Yoshi and Sonic the Hedgehog 2, and my god, this is the greatest ROM hack for a Sonic game I think I've ever played. So you know Yoshi's Island, right? Well, imagine those controls put into Sonic the Hedgehog 2 to create quite possibly the most interesting way to play a Sonic the Hedgehog game.
Oh, thank God it wasn't Hell's Kitchen again.
Fishing is like if you took billiards but somehow made it even more boring. Yeah, I gotta move billiards to D because fishing is utterly atrocious. It really, really is. Fishing has you throw a line into the lake and you try and pick up a fish. But oh no, if there's a grey fish, you lose points. That's it, that's the game. It's just fishing. I feel like I'm going crazy. That other one I put in F tier, Pose Me, that needs to move up. Fishing is an awful experience. It really is such an awful minigame within Wii Play. I would avoid this rubbish piece of absolute trash. And with GameCube game prices only getting higher, this is truly the best way to play.
I'm not enticing piracy. I would never. Just look up Paper Mario the 1,000-Year Door on eBay and see the prices and then make your own decision on whether you want to emulate and pirate the game or not. I'm not enticing it though. I would never. I would never.
To beat the first boss, you of course need a ground pound on Eggman, but the chemical plant boss is where things get a hell of a lot more interesting. Instead of just jumping up and hitting Eggman, you need to swallow the enemy that it plops out, turn it into an egg, and throw it at the boss. This made this boss so much more interesting than just jumping and hitting Eggman. It's such a cool way to do this. Through the Montreal Gazette, he met Scott Abbott, a guy whose Wikipedia page is on the list for smallest amount of text compared to references. Super Mario Bros. 64 is another hack done by Case that just brings Super Mario Bros. For the NES over to the Super Mario 64 engine. The graphics are the same, the jumps are higher, and most pipes don't work, but it's exactly what you think when you hear Super Mario Bros. 64. You can actually play as 4 different characters: Mario, Luigi, Wario, and Waluigi. However, when I tried Waluigi, the textures kinda broke, but that's probably my fault. With the most recent and popular case being the Yuzu emulator that could emulate Nintendo Switch games on your PC. Yuzu was a bit of a risky emulator to begin with. I mean, emulating a console that's currently available to purchase in the store is extremely risky business. But Yuzu was a lot of people's first way of playing several Switch games. Several games, like Super Mario Bros. Wonder and The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, leaked online early. So hackers distributed these games online before the games even released, and the emulator to play them all was Yuzu. Now of course this wasn't the Yuzu team's fault. They just made an emulator. Granted, they did lock some parts of it behind a Patreon page, but who's to say that's why they got taken down. But the Yuzu emulator was the one that helped people play these games early.
Team Fortress 2 was regarded at one point as my favorite game of all time, and now it's just free Steam trash. And god, that's sad. Hi, I'm Charlie, I'm back, and welcome to 1999. The Sony PlayStation is up against the Sega Saturn, the newly released Sega Dreamcast, and the Nintendo 64. PlayStation games can obviously only be played on a PlayStation, right?
We wanted to kick all the bots out from the server. First I tried to go undercover with the bots to see what would happen, but the bots kinda knew I wasn't one of them, so I just kept getting killed over and over again. Look, I tried. The original actually has its own ROM hacks too. Back in the 1980s, Nintendo teamed up with Fuji Television to create All Night Nippon Super Mario Bros. For the Famicom Disk System to bring the hosts of the radio show All Night Nippon into the Mario universe. This game happens to actually just be a ROM hack for Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels, and brings back some of the original Super Mario Bros. Levels alongside alongside some from Versus Super Mario Bros. And Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels. This game is pretty identical to Super Mario Bros. 1, 2, and Versus, and is basically just a mashup of all three games, but it also replaces a lot of the enemies in the game with the hosts of All Night Nippon. A pretty basic ROM hack, but an interesting one for sure. I can't play the multiplayer mode after all. My only friend is a life-size Luigi plush.
Shut up, Luigi! I love most of the games in the Wii series. I love Wii Music, for God's sake. But this was just boring. But hey, what can you do? No, seriously, what can you do?
Mario, Link, Sonic. All of these characters are some of the most iconic characters from all of video games. When you think of video games, at least one of them comes to mind. But there's always been this other one. This one that's been hanging around in the background. I mean, yeah, this guy's one of Nintendo's biggest characters, but he's not as big as most of them.
And that guy is Kirby, a legendary video game character that you've heard of. But have you ever actually played any of his games?
First we gotta choose an avatar. This green-haired fella looks quite nice, but this pirate guy, yum yum, he's my guy.
Have you ever wanted to play a ridiculously difficult Mario game? Well, ROM hackers have you covered.
Kaizo Mario World is one of the hardest ROM hacks I have ever played. I couldn't even get past the first level. Kaizo is a term to describe levels that are insanely hard that really don't need to exist. And this term started with this very ROM hack. It's a Japanese ROM hack that came out in 2007, and it honestly changed ROM hacking forever. Kaizo Mario World was certainly not the first hard ROM hack for Super Mario World, but it is truly the most iconic one ever created. Macworld 1999. Steve Jobs and Phil Schiller walk on stage to reveal the Kinetics Virtual Game Station, a way to play PlayStation games on a Macintosh. This was insane. At this point, emulators obviously existed, but they weren't as big as they are now. And suddenly, an emulator for a console that currently is still on the market is being pushed by Apple. Next, I tried joining the Discord server and they kept spamming in the chat.
Let's just say that didn't work too well.
Look, I'm not gonna read out any of the things that I got sent, but yikes. The cake is a lie. That phrase has been reposted all over the internet, but it all started with a simple little game by a company known as Valve. Released on the same day as Team Fortress 2 and Half-Life 2 Episode 2, Portal was the new hit franchise that no one expected, but everybody loved. It went on to spawn one sequel, a few spin-offs, countless mods appearing in other games, and so much more. But where did it all begin, and why does it work? Game consoles were always being reverse engineered, from Atari reverse engineering the NES to Accolade doing it with Sega with the Genesis. But this
was different.
At the same time, another emulator popped up for the PlayStation known as Bleem, which could not only emulate PlayStation games on the PC, but also on the Sega Dreamcast. Yeah, you could play original PlayStation games on a Dreamcast.
Sony was just a little pissed off after this. So after a bit of legal jargon, Sony was finally up against Bleem and Kinetics. And Sony had Sega and Nintendo backing them up. There is no possible way Sony can lose this lawsuit. Yet they did. These lawsuits changed emulation and their legality for the rest of time. Emulation wasn't illegal.
These levels are always straight up impossible for the normal player, but to experts on the physics of Super Mario World, this is their bread and butter. However, Kaizo Mario World was not the only ROM hack to come out of this Japanese creator. There was also Kaizo Mario World 2.
You've gotta be kidding me!
And my name? Well, we all know it's Charlie, so if I just... Oh.
You can only use 6 letters in your name? Who the hell has a name under 6 letters? Not counting you, Luigi.
Masahiro Sakurai. The man, the myth, the legend. Most known now for being the director on all of the games in the Super Smash Bros. Series, he actually got his work started at a little company known as HAL Laboratory. HAL started in February 1980 and began their work developing games for a lot of Japanese home computers before eventually getting in a relationship with Nintendo. With Nintendo, HAL developed games like Pinball, a game that ended up being a launch title for the NES in North America that stars Mario who has to save Pauline, along with Golf, a game that was only programmed by one guy, Satoru Iwata. They also made other games like F1 Race, Mark Rider, Balloon Fight, Lot Lot, Othello, and more. HAL Labs was doing quite a lot of stuff. At the same time, Masahiro Sakurai was growing up and eventually landed a job at HAL Laboratory and was set to direct his very first game at age 19. Now, where was the final Wembley Stadium scene filmed in the 2007 sequel 28 weeks later? Why the hell would I know the answer to that question?
And I think that's my problem. I don't know that much about random film trivia. Of course, I knew the next one about Spider-Man, but I really don't know about 90% of this stuff. It's just a guessing game at this point.
For which type of animal does Bruce Willis provide a voice in Over the Hedge?
Why would I know?
His name was supposed to be called Popopo. No idea why the hell he was called Popopo, but whatever. The actual game was also supposed to be called Popopo of the Spring Breeze, before later being changed to Twinkle Popo. And that's not even bringing up Kaizo Mario World 3. Yes, there's a third one, which is harder again. I'm so sick of... Oh dang. Baby Kaizo World is literally the same as the other Kaizo games, but instead of throwing you straight into it, it actually tries to teach you how to play Kaizo levels. Look, this game was really fun, but I'm just not good at Kaizo and I've learned to accept it, dang it! If you're looking for something more basic, then check out... Oh god, please no.
Now, Popopo of the Spring Breeze was never actually supposed to be published by Nintendo, but it didn't seem like anyone actually wanted the game, as no orders came in to purchase the game to sell. So the game ended up being delayed, and HAL asked Nintendo to publish the game.
And of course, Nintendo accepted. At first, Nintendo didn't know what the color of this main guy was supposed to be. Shigeru Miyamoto thought he was meant to be orange or something, due to the fact that this game was made for the Game Boy, so there was no color. But it was actually developed on a twin Famicom, so maybe there was color and they were just dumb. I don't know. Which of the Apollo missions is central to the plot of the 2008 movie Fly Me to the Moon?
God, just let me play Among the Stars!
Return to Dinosaur Land. Such a fantastic semi-sequel to Super Mario World. Obviously the real sequel to Super Mario World according to Nintendo was Yoshi's Island, but this game truly tries to bring back what was so fantastic about the original version of Super Mario World. This ROM hack is world renowned for being really good. But do you want to know what I think? Oh, do ya? It's kinda stupid. Look, what this ROM hack is basically just the original levels from Super Mario World but remade. But there's some of the most stupid puzzles I've ever seen. You know how in Super Mario World there's some levels that have multiple exits just to be funny? There's at least one of these in every single world in the game, and they're all extremely hidden alternate exits. I hate this so much. Emulators had been taken down before by other companies, with Valve taking Dolphin off of Steam before release due to being scared of a Nintendo lawsuit, but it was never to this scale. It hadn't been like this since Bleem and Kinetics. Now there's no more of Yuzu or Citra. I mean, yeah, you can still find those emulators online if you look hard enough, but their official builds are wiped from the internet alongside their Discord servers. In 2005, a group of students who attended the DigiPen Institute of Technology, who called themselves Nuclear Monkey Software, developed a puzzle platform game called Narbacular Drop. The game is a pretty simple 2005 PC puzzle game that honestly looks the part, and is quite an interesting concept for the time. You shoot orange and blue portals while you complete a series of what can only be described as test chambers. So finally, I went back to kicking all the bots out of the server. And when it was all said and done, the humans were left. Or should I say, just me. Everyone else was gone. It was just me in an empty Team Fortress 2 lobby. As I looked around on an empty 2 fort, I remembered all my past memories playing so many hours on that damn map. 2 Fort was always so much fun to play on. It had everything I loved about the game, and now it was just me. I was the only person left. Team Fortress 2 was dead. We won. But at what cost? The game was empty. I personally got stuck on the 3rd level, but the game's mechanics, its ideas, and everything else was just so much fun.
Is this the end of it all, or is this just the beginning? Oh, come on!
Well, It can't get any worse than this. Hey. Oh, come on! Team Fortress 2 as we know it is gone. It's seemingly never coming back. It was a fun almost 20 years, but now it's time for it to go. Good night, sweet prince. Maybe it is real. The only real thing Nintendo suggested is that they change the name of the little guy. I mean, who wants to call him Popopo? It's so close to another game that was developed by HAL, The Adventures of Lolo. I can't wait for Lolo and Popopo to team up. In Batman Begins, what is the number on the license plate of Bruce Wayne's car? How the hell am I supposed to answer that? Why would I remember the 6 random numbers that are the number plate of this random car in this Batman movie? I'd understand if the number plate was Batman, but it's just 6 random numbers. How the hell am I supposed to know those 6 random numbers? I guess I knew those 6 random numbers. For World 1, you need to complete level 3, then complete level 4, then make sure you have a cape, then go back to level 3, hope you don't lose said cape, as there's no possible way to get a cape in level 3. But then if you fail, you go back to level 4, discover an infinite 1-up glitch, get a cape, complete the level, go back to level 3, and repeat over and over again until you finally manage to get the key in the hole in level 3. And then World 2 just does the same thing. I don't even know where the secret exit is. What the hell? Who designed this game? Credited in the testing and feedback section is Natural Selection, Detonate.net, and Gary's mod. That Source Engine thing made originally as a Half-Life 2 mod. That's just kind of interesting knowing what I'm about to tell you. Skylanders, Activision's biggest moneymaker since the dawn of time. It all spawned from Spyro the Dragon, but something else made it huge. But that wasn't the only thing that made it huge. No, that was the toys that you could buy for it. Spyro, Trigger Happy, Gil Grunt, and more all helped grow Skylanders Spyro's Adventure to become the most popular game at the time. But why was the game so popular, and how was it developed? Which is why I introduced the Return to Dinosaur Island helpline. Looks like we got our first caller. Hello?
Hey, how do you complete the secret in World 2-3?
Well, that's pretty simple. What you're gonna do is play the level normally, go to the first ghost house, be confused as to why it's so easy, go back to 2-3, play the level over again, watch a YouTube tutorial and find out you need to use the awful Lakitu controls to fly under the goal, then get a key and complete the level normally. Got it? Let's bring ourselves back to a time of the 90s video game wars. There was the big 3, Nintendo, Sega, and Sony. Sega was pretty much failing at the time, but Nintendo and Sony were at each other's throats. Nintendo had Mario with the newly released Super Mario 64, and Sony had Crash Bandicoot. Crash Bandicoot was developed by Naughty Dog, with the rights being owned by Universal Interactive Studios. Another interesting part of the credits is the companies listed as special thanks. There's Sandlot Games, the artist MC Escher, who died in 1972, which was before this game came out, but whatever. Nintendo, which apparently was because the school where this game was developed was above a Nintendo warehouse, and Nintendo and the Digipet Institute had a lot of stuff that they did together, and Valve. Valve is the interesting part. Robin Walker, a major person at Valve at the time who was a designer on Half-Life 2 and all previous Valve games, was at the DigiPen career fair and saw Narbacula drop. But they also decided to name him after the lawyer John Kirby. John Kirby helped defend Nintendo when they were sued over Donkey Kong by Universal Studios, who thought that not only Donkey Kong was a ripoff of King Kong, but that they also owned the rights to King Kong. Fun fact for you, this wasn't the first time Universal tried to argue that they owned King Kong. 10 years prior, they tried to sue RKO Pictures for the exact same thing, with the end of the lawsuit coming out saying, hey, the rights for King Kong are so split up that, it's impossible to determine who owns King Kong at this point. Think about it, the last King Kong movie was made by Warner Brothers. That's not Universal. I don't know. In what year did the luxury liner Titanic sink on its maiden voyage to New York? Oh, God knows. God damn it! which city did we enter the mysterious world of a girl named Amelie?
Who? I did it!
Insomniac and Naughty Dog had a close relationship with each other, helped each other on both games, and we got the release of Spyro the Dragon. Spyro the Dragon became a trilogy of games alongside Crash Bandicoot, and Sony and Universal's contract was over. Now, Spyro and Crash Bandicoot could appear on any console they wanted. The first game to break the tradition of not only being on a Sony platform, but also not being developed by Insomniac Games was Spyro Season of Ice for the Game Boy Advance. The game got average reviews and was kinda the beginning of the mixed era for Spyro.
The next main Spyro game was Spyro Enter the Dragonfly. Oh boy!
Robin Walker decided to invite all the guys who created the game to visit Valve and show off the game to the people there. And then, the angel Gabriel from heaven came. His wings as drift as snow, his eyes as flame. All hail, said he, please come and work for us. We can make Portal. Gloria. You collect a star at the end of the level, and you're thrown into the very next level of the game. Castle Lololo.
How? Guys, you do know there are other words that aren't just one letter followed by O, right? Right?
But have you ever wanted to combine Super Mario Bros. 2, specifically the advanced version of Super Mario Bros. 2, into the New Super Mario series? Oh, no? Well, New Super Mario Advance is just Mario 2. There's not that much to talk about. Portal began as a new idea in the Half-Life universe. Loads, and I mean loads of assets from Half-Life 2 were used in the original version of Portal. The test chambers originally started in an extremely basic way, with everything around them besides from the puzzle itself being worked on. Portal was pretty much done at the time, but according to Tyler McVicker, who was previously known as Valve News Network and is now the Passionate Gamer, all the work that was done on the chambers for almost 2 years of the game development was purely just the art style and the actual physical design of the stuff in the room. Seemingly a lot of the original stuff in the rooms were very related to Nova Prospekt from Half-Life 2. Whether or not that was the actual story idea behind it, we'll never know, but it always looked as if it was straight out of the Half-Life universe. By now, the game was published by Vivendi Universal Games in NTSC regions and by Sierra Games in PAL regions. Universal had gone through a lot of mergers now, with it also beginning a merger with General Electric, which completely changed the company and how it worked once again.
But Spyro was still in a weird state as they released a reboot of the series called The Legend of Spyro: A New Beginning. It wasn't good. Newer Super Mario Bros. Wii is just such a classic. I love that damn thing. Looks like we got another caller. Hello?
Hey, how do you complete, World 2, Level 4? How do you complete that one?
The ghost house?
Yeah, that one.
Pretend you're playing the other ghost house by jumping on invisible blocks.
Can I go back to talking about newer Super Mario Bros. Wii now?
Wait, what?
What do I do next? Come on, 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 come on! Of course it's Super Mario Bros. 3.
Out of all things, this boss fight kinda reminds me of the final boss from Super Mario Land. You just keep shooting the thing until it dies. It's quite a fun boss fight, all things considered, but it's over quite quickly due to how easy it is. I remember playing this game back on my Wii using the Wii-volution channel that you would get after hacking a Wii. And because at the time I only had borrowed New Super Mario Bros. Wii from a video store like Blockbuster, I'd have to borrow the game over and over again so I could play newer Super Mario Bros. Wii because I loved it so much. Each world being connected, everything about it is just incredible. The transition between World 2 and World 3 being right next to each other, I think it's just the most incredible thing I've ever seen. This level has a lot more things in the sky for you to avoid, along with you eventually entering a castle in the clouds, like the song from Les Mis. So how does the game begin?
Whoa, I'm hooked.
And after this, you enter the final level.
What? Final level? Yeah, there's only 5 levels in this game. And the final level is just the previous 4 boss fights with a final boss fight where you fight King Dedede. Thank God Hal figured out that there are other letters in the alphabet, because there's also E. There's gotta be a way to create your own portals. I mean, if you just continue to play the game without creating your own portals, that would just kinda suck.
Everything would just be so boring. So Test Chamber 02, you get half a portal gun. Half? The Vendy games were scooped out of Universal and taken over to their buddies at Activision, who bought the company. I think that's pretty obvious. Honestly, when I first played the game, I didn't realize that you could also walk through the orange portal to get to the blue portal. I thought you could only go blue to orange, not orange to blue. I don't know why, that's just what I thought. So if you want to tell me what ROM hacks I should try, I'd really appreciate that. So hi, I'm Charlie, I'm back, and it looks like we've got another annoying caller. Hello?
How do you beat the secret exit in World 3-4?
I don't know, figure it out yourself!
Screw you, Hismario.
Hismario? That's a weird name. Yellow?
You're fired.
But it's my company! And this was happening at around the time Activision was merging with Blizzard to create Activision Blizzard. But every Spyro game was still just mixed. Everything I just said also happened to Crash Bandicoot, by the way. But doesn't it feel like there must be something ongoing outside of this facility? There's gotta be something else going on. We'll get there eventually. After developing Kirby's Dream Land, they made Vegas Stakes. First, there's harder versions of each level, but these aren't really that hard. They normally just make it a lot harder to do these skips, but you can normally just complete the test chamber in the intended way, or some sort of altered version of the intended way. But making a bigger and bigger Game Boy game, I think would just be a lot better because there's something to do for more than 30 minutes. Maybe even you go to a land. 2. I'm talking about Super Mario Land 2 because tomorrow I'm going to be talking about Super Mario Land 2. Because you understand this, right? We've been doing this thing every day. I couldn't figure out how to end this discussion with you, so I thought I'd just explain to you the joke that I just made. Okay, bye. Go click on something else. The companion cube is the same as the other cubes in the game, except this one has a love heart on it. Aww. This cube may be a living creature, or it might not, but you've been inside this testing track for so long that the companion cube is seemingly your only friend. However, no one thought it would work, so this Spyro game needed to have some sort of gimmick in order for the game to actually sell well. It would probably help if the game was good too. The game went into development as Spyro's Kingdom, a reboot of the Spyro franchise and being a much darker tone than before, as opposed to the last Spyro reboot, which was a much darker tone than before. The PlayStation 5 Pro is a massive waste of money. Yeah, I said it. The game eventually released as Skylanders Spyro's Adventure, with the Toys to Life being the main gimmick behind the game. The game released on all modern platforms, published by Activision, except for in Japan where it was Square Enix for some unknown reason. And then 2 years after the release, they got an exclusive Wii U version. It's very much just the same game, or at least the Toys for Bob Wii version of the game, but now it's on the Wii U. You know, I love this thing, but I mean, if it has to go, I'll miss you, Companion Cube. I mean, really, what's the actual point of an ever so slightly upgraded version of the PS5? A console well known for having practically no games on it. For $300 more? I mean, it has less than 20 exclusives. Even the Wii U has more. My god, even the Virtual Boy has more. 32 characters released when the game came out, flooding store shelves. The characters that I own are the following: Cinder, Double Trouble, Drobot, Flameslinger, Lightning Rod, and Zook. Thank god I have Zook. Test Chamber 19 is the final test, and it's surprisingly easy. I mean, all you have to do is get the energy ball into the catcher and then take a little train ride. That's pretty simple. And that's Portal. The final test is a bit disappointing. So as I ride off to get my cake, which was promised throughout the entire game, I've come to realize that this game is pretty good. But I keep seeing in all these rooms these things that say the cake is a lie, but the cake's gotta be real, right? Like, the cake is real. Like, the cake's not a lie. That would be really weird if it was. It can't be. Because if there's no cake, then what the hell's the end of this track? Oh, what the hell? The game just ends with me dying? GLaDOS just wanted me to die the whole time? The cake was a lie? What the hell?
Thanks, Charlie. The tale of Nintendo's success starts all all the way back to the beginning of the 8th generation of consoles, when Nintendo released the Wii U.
Hi, I'm Charlie, I'm back, and Flash games are a thing of the past. But there's so many of them. There are so many Flash games out there to play. There's an insane amount.
But in 2024, they announced the successor to the Nintendo Switch.
At the same time though, Nintendo was taking down fan projects left and right, such as the add-ons on the Steam Workshop for the game Gary's mod that used Nintendo assets, and the popular Nintendo Switch emulator Yuzu.
They also bought a company called Shiver Entertainment, but we don't know what that's for.
Thanks, Grampsy.
The game also had magic items and level pieces, small little Skylander figures that unlock items and levels. Pretty self-explanatory, but you can't forget the variants. There's dark versions of each of the characters, along with little sidekick versions that can help you in the game. The final different versions of characters are the chase versions. They're just like silver versions or like different textures. Gladys is a pretty ugly looking bot, but a pretty dangerous one too. It allows you to constantly be brought into a new and magical world that Nintendo created without having to wait years for a game that will eventually be pulled off store shelves in 2 weeks.
Speaking of which,
Sony! Oh boy, do I have a lot to say about Sony. Let's begin with effing Worms Xmas. Yes, that is the name of the game. It is EFFING. You're sent flying down a shaft until you're given that cake you asked for.
the cake isn't a lie!
I could bag on Sony as a company for their attempts in the film industry with incredible films like Morbius, Madam Web, and Harold and the Purple Crayon, but I really want to hone in on their PlayStation branch right now, even though the problems I'm about to say is kind of the problems that Sony has as a wider company. Owning so many of these little toys meant you were so cool. The toys, I think, is what pushed Skylanders to the success it is. Because if you actually play the game,
it's not great. It's the pure definition of a kid's game. It just keeps pointing out the damn obvious as if I'm an idiot. I don't know why I enjoyed this one so much, but I did. Charlie, it's Christmas tomorrow. Why are you talking about Flash games? It's boring. Just go to bed. Who cares? Honestly, bro. Who cares? I don't want to go to bed, John. I want to talk about the Christmas games like I did last year. I want to talk about the next game, which is Winter Gifts with 2 exclamation marks on the end. Please, John. Please. Alright, fine. But that's it. After this game, go to bed. Well, if we're stuck here, why don't we have a little fun?
the cheats in Portal are just so much fun. You can give yourself the guns from Half-Life 2, spawn in stuff from Half-Life 2 in Portal, and just goof around throughout the entire game. Super Mario Maker, Splatoon, Little Big Planet. All of these games have been left behind as we look into the bleak future of video games. But if we look back at these games, there was actually a lot of quality back there. We leave these games in the past that don't deserve to be left there. And sometimes it's our fault, and sometimes it's the companies that make the game's fault. Game collecting is frustrating. It's fun going around to all the different places that you can go to try and find a game that you've always wanted, but nowadays it's almost impossible to find those games for low prices.
I've had this experience way too many times. Try buying a Pokemon entry from the DS or earlier. Even for Pokemon Black, it's over 100 Australian dollars. It's absolutely insane. I just want Pokemon Black! Legally. Over the years, I've tried to do a little bit of research as to why people give up on certain video games. I can come up with reasons why people stop playing video games entirely, and that's normally because many people link video games with their childhood and nostalgia, and now think that they're a complete waste of time. I, of course, don't personally think that, but it's a common trope you can find on forum websites like Reddit and Quora. People just think they've grown up. All the new games that come out aren't as good as the ones when they were younger. And I think that's just how we look at nostalgia as a whole. See, Often when we look back at our past memories, both with playing games, watching movies, TV, music and more, we don't actually see the quality of what we played or watched or whatever. We just see the memories associated with that piece of media or that place. Newer games are just full of no life, people say. Newer movies just don't have the same source that the older movies had. And to be fair, that can be the case with newer games and newer movies, but I don't understand why we're pretending that older games and movies can't be just as bad.
But for the bad media you see in your childhood, you don't actually see how bad it really is. All you see is the happy memories that surround that media, whether it be good or bad. And I think that's what leads to people giving up on video games, because they just want to play the old ones back when they were happy. But leaving games behind is just a common thing that happens, and it happens to me all the time. I went around the release of Pikmin 4 and just seeing all of the advertisement for Pikmin 4, walking into the incredibly busy Nintendo store to buy the Famicom Nintendo Switch Online controllers, it was just so much fun. Going to stores like Hard Off, Super Potato and all of the smaller stores in Japan was just incredible. I managed to get so much stuff for such low prices. I'm not trying to resell any of these games, so I'd only buy what I was interested in, but look at all these Game Boy Advance games I got for just 300 yen, or 330 yen if you want to be specific. That's really insane to me.
Splatoon 2 was the next game in the franchise, but it honestly just felt like a way to bring the first Splatoon over to the Switch. But you know what? That was fine. Splatoon 2 was a fantastic game, and having it on the Switch was the perfect place to have it. Splatoon 2 became the main Splatoon available on the Switch, getting more amiibo, DLC, but suddenly Splatoon 3 came out. Splatoon 2 was pretty much completely abandoned, left to waste on the Nintendo Switch. Yeah, the online servers are still up unlike Splatoon 1, which is completely dead, but Splatoon 2 is just left in this awkward position. When I tried Splatoon 2 for the first time in years, although I was surprisingly good at it, it was really hard to find a server.
I was so excited to get my hands on it. I then decided to finally actually play the game, and I mean, it was okay. This was around the time when I was very susceptible to all of the fad games, like the yearly Call of Duty, Battlefield, Halo, Minecraft I guess, and Skylanders. That's all I really put my time and energy into. Yeah, I still like Mario and Portal and all of that, but the other things were my highlights and what I always wanted.
But there's another Nintendo game that has even less players, but also doesn't have a sequel.
Remember the launch of the Switch? I talked about it a little bit earlier, but there was one game I didn't bring up at all. One that was attempting to be a huge franchise just like Splatoon. There was even going to be a tie-in comic written by Ian Flynn of IDW Sonic fame, and also did the story of Sonic Frontiers. But it later got cancelled. What game am I talking about?
Yes, I know.
Yeah?
Is it ARMS?
Correct! You now, alongside the dude from Family Guy and a few others, need to stop chaos from taking over. I just find collecting in Japan, being able to walk to video game stores and find the coolest games you could ever see for next to nothing was just so much fun. However, clearly, people who want to resell the games or just buy the games to make a YouTube video to then resell them is kinda what ruins it for me. Guys, I'm not talking about myself. Everyone else is stupid. Not me. Sometimes I think that the game truly thinks I'm an idiot. And the cutscenes, my god, sometimes they just go on forever. On the Wii version, which is the version I'm playing, you can skip them by just spamming the C button. I didn't know that for a lot of my playthrough, so I was pretty much just watching cutscenes 90% of the time. And they take forever because they're treating you like you're 5. You've heard the joke that the PS5 has no games, right? Well, there's actually some truth to it. Let's look at the amount of games that Sony has exclusively published to the PlayStation 5 as opposed to Nintendo publishing to the Nintendo Switch in that same amount of time. In Sony's first year on the market with the PS5, there was 4 exclusive games.
Now 4 doesn't look all that great, but there was also 3 multi-platform games, which means they released on the PS5 and the PS4. One of them came to competing platforms, but Sony actually has this every year because they publish MLB The Show. Sony also had 3 remasters and ports of games that already existed that now have new versions. Sound good?
Yep!
Who the hell? Oh, never mind.
I want to like this game so badly. I really do, but it's just not fun. And you know who's buying up all the games? It's not the residents of Japan. No, it's the tourists. Ah, crap. I'm sorry, guys. No, not you. The people who are buying up the games to travel back home to sell the games for ridiculous prices, and also because it's just more popular than it used to be. It's happening with these other things besides from video games. All of these games are going on eBay to be sold at stupid prices that you should never buy. Well, thank you, weird voice. I decided to try out the game again, first trying out the single player mode Grand Prix. And you know what? You honestly want to know what I thought of the single player mode in the 2017 classic ARMS? It was fine. I really like the concept that they did with Grand Prix. It reminds me of classic mode from Super Smash Bros. Or the arcade modes from other fighters like Tekken, and I think it works really well. I started as Bite and Bark and fought against Min Min, and I was honestly having a lot of fun going back to the game and figuring out how to play it again. I went on to fight Ribbon Girl, but I think this is where the cracks started to show. Anyway, let's look at what Nintendo did on their first year on the market of the Nintendo Switch. So from March 2017 to March 2018, Nintendo had 7 exclusives. That's already more than the PS5. But there was also 2 multiplats, 2 multi-platform games. And then there was also 4 remasters, ports, that category. But to be fair, Sony was going through a lot at the time, so I decided to see what Nintendo published within the PS5's first year on the market. They had 11 exclusives. There was also 5 remasters and ports and remakes. I don't need to buy a store's entire collection of Famicom Disk System games. I'll just buy the Marios and Zeldas and be on my way, thank you very much. The next problem of game collecting is the prices. Do you want to buy Pikmin 2? You want to buy it? It's at least $100, if not more, for the GameCube version anyway. The Wii version isn't that, it's just the GameCube version. Like, my god, the only way to get it cheap is to get the NTSC version. It also has a volleyball mode, and this was really fun. But it was just too short. I think Nintendo really wanted people to play this game just as much as they play Rocket League. But there's just something about ARMS that makes it not as replayable as Rocket League, but I honestly couldn't tell you what that is. Nostalgia. I don't have a problem with it, but it can lead to absolute hell when it comes to collecting. I don't know if you've ever looked at comic books, but if a comic's more than like 20 years old, even 10 years old, and it's a somewhat major event or an issue 1, whether it be the Infinity Gauntlet storyline or the death of Superman, it's very expensive. Of course, luckily for comic books, if you don't care about getting first editions, it doesn't really matter what version of the comic you get. Big storylines like this are often reprinted, either singular issues or in those bigger books, all of the time, so you don't have to buy the original copies. If you want to read the 90s Secret Wars, you can. If you want to read Crisis on Infinite Earths, just buy the recent reprint. That's what I did. When I first played this game, I thought that maybe the Skylanders were from some other Spyro game, and then they just became their own franchise, like the Rabbids for Rayman, but no.
Welcome back to Guess That Exclusive. I'm your host, PlayStation 4, and we are on the final question. If you forgot, our 3 contestants are John, playing for the Hellish Christmas Foundation.
Yeah, it's nice to be here, plays.
Luigi, who wouldn't tell us who he's playing for. And you, the viewer at home.
Me?
Yes, you.
The Wii U! Nintendo's worst selling console that they supported for more than a year. When not including the Virtual Boy, does that even count as a main console? We got some great games like Super Mario 3D World, Super Smash Bros. For Wii U and Super Mario Maker, but we also got some pretty terrible games such as Meme Run. Yeah, I'm not kidding. There's actually a game called Meme Run. Whatever your opinion on the Wii U is, I think we can all agree that it wasn't fantastic. The only way to get Hell's Kitchen the game for Nintendo Wii is to buy it pre-owned. The game wasn't released digitally, at least on the Wii anyway, and there's no way in hell they're reprinting this game ever again. It'd be really weird if they did. The game isn't that expensive at all, but imagine this for even older games than this. Older licensed games that no one really cares about. They're just lost to time if they aren't archived, and they aren't re-released or reprinted. Skylanders is a franchise that legacy still remains strong due to the great memories that people had with all of the different characters in the series.
Here's your question. How many exclusives did Sony publish on its third year in the market? A, 4, B, 5, C, 2, or D, 1?
Well, it can't be 1. That would just be pointless. Well, I mean, it could be 1 if they published a bunch of remakes and re-release.
Yes, John?
Is it 5?
I'm sorry, that's wrong. Does anyone else have any guesses? Yes? You?
It's 1. It's 1. That's the end of the bit, guys. It's 1. It's 1. They only published 1 exclusive in 2023. That's the end of the bit. They only published 1 entire exclusive in 2023. Have you ever looked up the price of Game & Wario for the Wii U? For some unknown reason, this game is almost impossible to find for a semi-reasonable price at this point. Yes, for a Wii U game, a console that didn't sell well. There are multiple Nintendo published games that are the same way. I don't know why. It's the same with most Wario games on other platforms too, such as Wario World for the GameCube. Most GameCube games, in fact, are actually at levels that are a bit too ridiculous. Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door, despite the fact that there's a Nintendo Switch remake out, is still at least $200 for the GameCube original. Why? Well, people just want to relive the GameCube era right now. That's just the most common trend. It was the same with the NES and the SNES a few years ago. For a while, people really wanted to go back and play all those classic NES and SNES games from their childhood. Now, the people who bought the Nintendo 64 and more so the GameCube by this point are wanting to go back and buy all of those games. And I'm afraid the Wii is about to hit that point too.
Little Big Planet to me was what Roblox is to kids nowadays. There were endless amounts of possibilities, dude. You could create your own games and engineer objects to have certain mechanics. You could play an enormous range of community-made levels, ranging from something like Survive the Titanic to a PG version of Mortal Kombat. And there were even certain creators that were just shooting entire recreations of movies using Little Big Planet avatars that you could just sit down and watch. I honest to God remember crying to a recreation of Hachi, A Dog's Tale in Little Big Planet.
Because Nintendo in its third year had 14 exclusives. What the hell? 1 multi-plat, which came to competing platforms, whatever. 4 remasters, ports, and remakes, 1 of which came to competing platforms, and that's it. And then within the third year of the PS5, Nintendo had 9 exclusives, 5 remasters, and that's it! Let's look at the PS5's fourth year. 5 exclusives, 2 multi-plats, and then there's 3 remasters, because I made this slideshow before they announced Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered. There was something else that happened this year. There's 1 deleted game. What? All of these little guys mean so much to so many people. Now more than ever, people are looking at their childhood games and reflecting on what they loved. It just so happens that the people that are currently 18 to 21 that don't have anything else to do played Skylanders when they were younger. They would walk into the store shelves and see these Skylanders filling the shelves and they loved it. So no matter the quality of these games, Skylanders Spyro's Adventure has a legacy unlike anything else. It started the Toys to Life revolution in video games, inspiring games like Disney Infinity, LEGO Dimensions, and even Amiibo. And all the sequels, man. They were all great too. all of these different unique ideas that each game in the series had, whether it be you can swap the different pieces or give your Skylander a car, each game had its own unique identity, which is more than some of the other yearly games that come out. The amount of videos on YouTube, TikTok, and more I see of nostalgia all based around the Nintendo Wii and DS is insane. People just want to go back and play those classic Wii games like Wii Sports, Wii Party, and more. I've never seen this many people care about those classic Wii games before, and my god, the prices of these games like Wii Sports are slightly rising. Wii Sports is worth nothing. Like, literally nothing. It was bundled with about 90 if not more % of Wii's, yet copies of Wii Sports are now selling for upwards of 10 Australian dollars. It's barely even worth $1. The thing is, even if you go to places that sell video games, there's thousands of copies of Wii Sports everywhere. But I guess they must just continuously come in and out and in and out for the price to keep getting higher on such a popular game that there's a bajillion units of. Like, I don't really get it, but whatever. It's just annoying.
Most importantly to me though, the Little Big Planet games were made to socialize and find friends. This may not have been too healthy for 7-year-old me, and thinking back on it, all my friends were probably pedophiles. And while I haven't revisited Little Big Planet much in the last few years, it's always been held near and dear to my heart. So you can imagine my disappointment at Sony when they released a statement out of the blue saying that the Little Big Planet 3 servers were shutting down, meaning that every user-created level was gone with no warning and no time to be archived for people to revisit. That is nearly 2 decades worth of people's creativity and passion disappearing into the deep dark void. It's really sad thinking about how I probably won't be able to go back and check out those levels that I remember so fondly from my childhood.
Another fun thing about collecting is just straight up getting the wrong thing, or getting something you already own. This has happened to me countless times, and each time is different from the last. Now whenever this happens, it's on cheap stuff, so it doesn't really matter that I accidentally wasted $1 or $2, but it's always just that little bit annoying. When I bought Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary Edition, it just straight up didn't have the game inside. Like, okay, I already own this version of the game inside the Master Chief Collection, but I would have loved to, you know, actually own the game, the original. Well, you know, whatever, own that version of the game. But that's fine, most Xbox games are literally worth pennies, so I don't really mind having to go out and buy another Xbox game again, big whoop. This also happened for Fallout 3. Now the first time I got Fallout 3, I got the PlayStation 3 version and the disc just didn't work. That was annoying. So then I decided to get the Xbox 360 version, and for some reason, it was supposed to come with 2 discs, but I only got one of them. Why? Surgeon Simulator was a huge game on YouTube back in 2013 and 2014, being played by all the popular creators. But when we look back at the game now, no one plays it. I mean, literally no one. I checked the active Steam player base of this game, and at 4:29 PM on the 23rd of April 2024, there was 19 people playing Surgeon Simulator. That's insane. I decided to try out the game again, but I honestly don't get it. I don't understand this game whatsoever. I've tried countless times to complete just one surgery in this game, but I just can't figure out how to actually play the game properly. There's just something so annoying about playing this game, and it honestly comes down to the controls. The controls are very similar to this genre of popular games where you control very specific things with the keyboard, with the most popular one being the popular Flash game, QWOP. Did you watch the PlayStation State of Play in May 2024? The presentation opened with a massive 15-minute long explanation as to what this game that Sony announced the year prior, Concord, was about. The game was a live service game clearly inspired by Guardians of the Galaxy. The game apparently had started development 8 years prior and was finally coming out in August 2024. Sony was going to set up an exclusive beta for players in July 2024, and when they did, no one played it. Then the game came out a month later and no one played it. The game had pretty mixed reviews, saying it was kind of fun, but like, what was the point behind it? And when I say no one played it, I seriously mean no nobody played it. Sony really wanted to push this game. I mean, they made an exclusive Concord PS5 controller. They licensed Concord to appear in an episode of Secret Level, an upcoming anthology show about multiple video games. They just really wanted Concord to be the next big thing. But Sony had one problem.
No one played it. It's always funny when you say the same joke 3 times in a row. I'll never forget my time with the Skylanders, even if I didn't like the game that much. The adventures I'd imagine these characters would go on was just so great. I wouldn't have it any other way. So hi, I'm Charlie, I'm back, and thank you, Skylanders. I'm now gonna check out your sequel where you made all the characters really big. I think they already ran out of ideas.
Back 4 Blood is a semi-sequel, sorta spin-off, sorta kinda spiritual sequel to the Left 4 Dead franchise. See, Left 4 Dead was a series of 2 games published by Valve, with the second game even being developed by Valve, but the developer, Turtle Rock Studios, wanted to create a 3rd game, and Valve was actually working on a 3rd game to use their brand new Source 2 engine. However, as things went, the game got cancelled and Turtle Rock Studios went over to Warner Brothers Games, out of all people, to create Back 4 Blood, which is very clearly inspired by Left 4 Dead. The Nintendo Switch is the most successful semi-modern console by a large margin. It sold over 140 million units, but it purely comes from Nintendo's failures that they had right before. The Wii U was Nintendo's biggest failure for a home console. Almost no one bought a Wii U, and with a lack of quality games, it made it really hard to actually want a Wii U. There were great games on the Wii U, no doubt about it, but they're very few and far between. We had Super Mario Maker, Splatoon, Bayonetta 2, and more, but we also had a lot of junk like Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival and Mario Tennis Ultra Smash. And on the other hand, Nintendo was also releasing games for the 3DS. There was certainly a lot more quality over there. The 3DS was at least successful, unlike the Wii U, but it was very clear that Nintendo was stuck in a bit of a rut. The 3DS had a lot more quality than the Wii U, but you could tell that by 2015 they'd kinda moved on.
But the worst time is when I bought God of War 2.
Now, God of War is an interesting franchise for me. I own a lot of the games in the series, but I haven't actually played any of them. But for some reason I decided to buy God of War 2. I was really excited that I found this game for such a low price, so I decided to open the game and found Metal Gear Solid 2? I mean, yeah, it's another absolutely incredible video game, but what the hell, this isn't what I wanted. I haven't had really a good experience with the Metal Gear series. Not that I've actually played, like, any of the series, besides from I tried the NES one and I tried the demo of the first one. I've just tried to buy it that many times and it's always gone wrong. I tried to buy the first game and it was a demo disc. Why the hell was a demo disc worth $29? Like, holy crap, and then I accidentally got the second game. Can I not just get Metal Gear Solid on my own terms? I never really cared about Zelda at the time of the Wii U, but I just remember this fabled game that was supposed to be coming out known as Zelda Wii U. I never really cared about it, but I always wanted to see it come out. I mean, it would have been something interesting on the Wii U, but something very clearly went wrong when creating Back 4 Blood, because what the hell is this? The number one thing I'd say is that if you're on a tight budget, don't go in expecting to find the hits like pretty much any GameCube game or even most Mario games. If you're that desperate to find a Mario game, all you're gonna find is the Mario and Sonic games, specifically the Wii entries, and possibly Mario Power Tennis, specifically the Wii version. But what you're mainly going to find is games for the Xbox and possibly the PlayStation 2. If you don't want to buy anything for these consoles, don't worry, you don't have to. There's a land full of Wii games you can buy. And you could try and find some better deals on Nintendo games, but if you're going in with a really low budget, that's kinda all you're gonna find. But that's okay. You begin to appreciate all of these smaller games you find.
Mostly.
So on the 3rd of September, Sony announced that they were shutting the entire game down. They were going to give out refunds, of course, and they shut the game down on the 6th of September. The game lasted 2 weeks. I find that genuinely insane. I really do. I don't understand how Sony could have this game that took 8 years to be created to shut it down and pretend it doesn't exist in 2 goddamn weeks. Don't feel like you have to buy every video game you see. I know I've fallen into the trap before of seeing a Wii game thinking, oh, that would be funny to own, and then I end up with over 100 Wii games. Yet you don't need to do that. If you're buying the games to eventually play them, you don't need to literally own everything. Of course, there are people out there who want to do that, and that's cool. You just need to work out what type of collector you want to be. I may find it stupid if you put your games in glass cases for you to never play them, but that's the collector you are, then that's the collector you are. And just embrace it. I absolutely love everything about the game. From the open worldness of the levels, to the music, to the ability to explore and collect different moons, to complete this game each time in a completely different way, and each unique boss fight. Oh my god, this game is just incredible. It's very rare that on my first playthrough of a game I already want to play it again, but with this game I want to play it as many times as I possibly can. It's just that good. But because of what it meant. Look, I grew up on Marvel. Could you tell? Every single section of the game is just so unique compared to the last. All the different costumes, the different ways of collecting moons. This game is just incredible. I am and always will be a Mario guy, so I'm bound to like 99% of Mario games, but this game is just something different. I got this feeling when I first played Super Mario Galaxy as well. Everything is just one big celebration of the past, along with introducing some incredible stuff to the series. Everything is just great. So what did Nintendo do? What did Nintendo do to upgrade the Switch? They made the Switch OLED. Look, the Switch OLED was never really supposed to be the next big step in the Nintendo Switch's life, but it just came out at the wrong time. The Switch OLED was the conclusion for years-long rumors about the Nintendo Switch Pro. The Switch Pro was supposedly going to be an upgraded version of the Switch with better stuff inside the console, more like the 3DS to the new 3DS. But the Switch OLED was just a slightly different Switch. It had a larger screen and an OLED screen. It really didn't seem like Nintendo was really gonna do anything for a while. The Switch was left to decay. So they think a good idea is removing one of them?
You better be grateful. Back in my day, I could only play games for 5 minutes when I had a coin to put in the machine.
Grabsy, I don't care. I feel like the most important tip I have is to just have fun. I know some people out there like to collect things just to make it a bit of an investment, but my god, that's not fun. Just have fun out there. Do whatever makes you have the most fun collecting video games. Whether that be just going to the big gaming stores and looking through the shelves, going to the smaller stores, or just buying on eBay. Do whatever makes you feel you're having the most fun collecting video games. Hi, I'm Charlie, I'm back, and the Epic Game Store is full of a lot of junk. Every week you get given a game for free, but I haven't actually tried most of them. I of course have the intention to play these games, but I'm just never gonna play them. But you see, Sony actually solved the problem by making a good game. Astrobot! Yay! A good game! But then they did something atrociously stupid. What? Would you just wait for the title card? The PlayStation 5 Pro is the dumbest piece of technology ever announced for humans' consumption. You'll be able to walk up to your shelf and be as confused as I am not knowing what to play. I mean, seriously, sometimes I just stand there trying to look for a game and then I just give up and sit back on the couch. Like, it's quite depressing, but, you know, that's what happens. You know what? Let's look at these games that start with P and end with Okamon. Pokemon is such an interesting franchise. See, although every single game in the franchise is published by Nintendo, at least when they're on Nintendo platforms, the games are actually developed by Game Freak and the Pokemon Company, which Nintendo only owns a third of. Ever since the game's inception though, the games have always been just slightly outdated. By the time of Pokemon Red and Blue's release in the US and the rest of the world, the games could have easily come out on the Game Boy Color if they waited just a few more months for the color to release. Since then, every Pokemon generation hangs onto the previous generation console for just a little bit too long. Wii Karaoke U, a often forgotten part of the Wii series of games, more so than Wii Chess. Wii Karaoke U only released in Europe and Japan, and only Japan actually got a physical release of Wii Karaoke U. It just seems like they they were trying to create a new generation, while also not making a new generation whatsoever. There is not any games that are exclusive to the PS4 Pro or Xbox's Xbox One X. I honestly don't think we should have ever got the PS4 Pro. Imagine going from the base PS4 visuals to the base PS5 visuals. That would have looked incredible. That would have been an insane jump. However, because we have the PS4 Pro, going from the PS4 Pro to the PS5 isn't really that much different. And it's exactly the same on the Xbox side. I love just being able to look at my shelf and look at all of these incredible works of art sitting on my shelf ready to go whenever I want. It's absolutely incredible. But next year we have the next big Pokemon game. What do you mean it's more similar to Pokemon Go than any other mainline Pokemon game? Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee are technically remakes of Pokemon Yellow, which itself was a newer version of the original version of Pokemon Red and Green in Japan, but this one incorporated Pokemon Go, the hit 2016 phenomenon that people played for about a week. Remember this presentation, you know, from earlier? Just because they're making the PS5 Pro doesn't mean they're doing anything to actually push the PS5 Pro, except for goddamn Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered, which is a PS4 game. And in the presentation, they're showing us the differences between The Last of Us Part 2 on PS5 and PS5 Pro. It's a PS4 game! The Last of Us Part 2 is a PS4 game that they remastered for the PS5 for literally no reason. Like, yeah, okay, it looks better. Whatever. I don't know what this game is, like at all. This is really a game they gave out on Epic Games? Wow. Look at that. It's a guy. 1968, yeah. Soldiers! Guys, watch out! Oh my god, what are they gonna do? Oh my god. 1960. Oh, we're moving up in the years. Here we go. Buffet! All you can eat. What is happening? I don't know what's happening. Oh, okay. 1971. We're cleaning the toilet. Okay. What the hell? But to show off your PS5 Pro, you're really gonna show off something that also looks good on a base PS4? And don't even get me started on Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered. Can you get started on Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered? Okay.
Are you alone?
Could this be any slower? I can't keep playing. This is just so unbelievably boring. The pause button doesn't even do anything. In the second year, we also got The Last of Us Part 1, a remake of The Last of Us.
But didn't you already say they remastered that game? I think you're starting to lose your mind, buddy.
Oh no, they did it again.
I guess that makes sense though, because you can't play PS4 games on a PS5.
Oh no, as I said earlier, you can play PS4 games on a PS5.
So what's the point of the remaster?
It looks better, to be fair.
Well, surely it at least has new content.
Nope, it actually removes the multiplayer.
Well then surely it was a budget release.
We can't keep playing this game, you already know the answer. This game contains explicit violence and excessive blood and gore. It also references topics such as... Okay, I don't know if I can put this in the video. There's certainly something there, but I can't really see it. Oh, it's a person. What do I do? Where do I go? Oh, why can't I play an interesting game? Wow. Ah, return. Okay, what's over here? Wow, look at this. I am 8 AR tall. The original game released on the PS3 for $60 US. Pretty simple, that's what games were worth at the time. If you waited until the PS4, $50. That's a pretty good deal, and it makes sense because it's a year older game. So let's see the price of the PS5 version. What the hell? I eat some apples, or do I just... Oh, the pine cones again. Pinecone family. I have to climb up this ladder now. Horizon Zero Dawn is worth literal pennies, so it makes sense. However, you'll never guess what they did. They made the price on the digital store more expensive. The original version is now $20 more. Yeah, so instead of it being a $10 upgrade, it's a $30 upgrade. Like, okay, I don't think this upgrade is at all worth it. Horizon Zero Dawn already was PS5 enhanced, so it looks absolutely incredible already on the PS5. But my god, just say it's a $30 upgrade and not a $10 upgrade. But I also don't really care because the physical copy is worth pretty much nothing, so it doesn't really matter. But it's just not a good look within Sony's already quite atrocious 2024. And the worst thing is, I haven't even mentioned half the things they've done yet. What the hell did they do? Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl are remakes of the DS games Pokemon Diamond and Pearl. And these are just such weird remakes. I never had a PlayStation console prior to this. I was always a Nintendo guy and I had an Xbox One, but the PS4? No way, that's not me. But an action-packed Spider-Man first-player game? I think I finally need a PS4. When I played Spider-Man, I was enthralled. I thought this game was absolutely incredible. It's such a fantastic game full of life. This game honestly pulled me in to keep checking on what the Marvel games are doing. So when I heard about Marvel's Avengers, I knew it was gonna be good. Or at least that's what I hoped. Where do I even begin? Pokemon Scarlet and Violet are the beginning of the 9th generation of Pokemon and suffer from just so many issues. The game is similar to the previous Legends games, with it being an open world just like that game, but obviously slightly more linear to fit into the normal Pokemon formula. But then it completely breaks that formula by having this school element as if it's Persona 5 or something. So thanks Konami, and Universal, and DreamWorks. The company didn't even exist when this game actually came out. And limited run games. So all Nintendo needs to do is not get some bad press. That can't be hard, right? Clearly Nintendo has a very divisive audience when it comes to some of the decisions they make. They've made absolutely fantastic games, but there's clearly something that's always been going on over at their legal department of the company. I've spoken on Yuzu before. Yuzu was a Nintendo Switch emulator to have Nintendo Switch games running on PC and Android. There's obviously other Nintendo Switch emulators. You've definitely let me know that. It seems like this game, more than anything else, is inspired by the Super Mario Land games, as the different abilities you gain are very similar to what you get in especially the first Super Mario Land. And after playing another one of Hudson Soft's platformers, Super Mario Bros. Special, you can really see what their style of game development was between these two games. Look, a lot of the bosses in this game were the same, which does get pretty boring after a while, but the sky and water levels totally make up for it. It was just so much fun changing between all of the different game styles. And then near the end of the game, you go to space and have a different style again, with this one being more of a shoot 'em up. It's so interesting to see how creative Hudson Soft got with such a simple premise, and I honestly think modern day platformers should look at this game to see what to do. And I know Felix the Cat is not the only NES game that's like this. As I mentioned, there's DuckTales, Battletoads to a certain extent, and more. But Felix the Cat was truly a great game. Layoffs in the video game industry were happening constantly. Over 9,500 jobs were lost in those 6 months alone, and it's only gotten worse, and that is insane. First it started with Unity, Twitch, Playticker, and Discord in January, which affected over 2,000 people alone. Riot Games was next, laying off another 530 people, which was about 11% of the company. Following that was Microsoft, which we can talk about much later. Then Eidos Montreal, which then brings us to Sony. On February 27th, 2024, Sony laid off 900 people across all of their studios, with them shutting down their London studios. This, of course, alongside all of the other industry layoffs, really put a giant sour taste in people's mouth about the video game industry. Seemingly, the entire industry was crumbling. Sony, Microsoft, and more companies clearly didn't know what to do to stop this from happening, and they're honestly not setting a good precedent on what's to come. There is very clearly something wrong in the video game industry, but the general public doesn't know what it is. I mean, there's the rushing of the games to make sure they come out, and then they turn out to be not so good but fixed through bugs, but I think companies just want games to be made in 6 weeks. just like E.T. was on the Atari 2600. And we all know how that turned out. But at least we got Astrobot, hell yeah! But Yuzu was clearly the most popular emulator by a large margin. In February 2024, Nintendo, specifically Nintendo of America, filed a lawsuit against the company responsible for the creation of the Yuzu emulator, which eventually led to the team to settle with Nintendo and shut the entire emulator down. But I think we'll talk about Microsoft later. They just keep stuffing up to a point where it is impossible to catalog every bad thing they do, because by the time you can actually talk about it, they've done another 5 stupid things. In the future, we'll talk about how Microsoft is going the same way of Sega and how it was completely unavoidable. Like, why do you want to be this? That's what you do when you see a magical rock, you just play catch. These goddamn pine cones, man. The lighting effects kind of just... I don't know what happened. There we go, it looks better from that side. Put a lot of effort into that throw. Look, I'm really... No. I hadn't thrown it yet. Don't get angry at me. I didn't even throw it again. Frick. No Quality 3587 seems to suggest that the reason Nintendo went after Yuzu and not the other emulator that I can't figure out how to pronounce is that they have released bug fixes on said Patreon for games that need to be obtained through piracy. However, Green Tea seems to think that that's not what happened at all. Green Tea seems to suggest that it had more to do with the one untested in-court aspect of the emulator, which circumvented encryption used as copy protection. Did you know what that meant? I don't know what that meant. Back in the 80s, Nintendo teamed up with Fuji Television's radio show All Night Nippon to create All Night Nippon Super Mario Bros. You've probably heard this story a million times. I mean, everybody talks about this game, but not many people own it. After all, there's only a little over 3,000 copies in the entire world. And I'm one of those people. My copy has both All Night Nippon Super Mario Bros. And the Disk System version of the original Super Mario Bros. And it's honestly a really cool thing that I wanted to own for such a long time. But this wasn't the only, like, company tie-in game that was released by Nintendo. Oh no, there's even one that's so much more rare than the thing I'm holding in my hand right now. Mr. Skinner from The Simpsons got involved with Green Tea, thinking it was a stupid theory, but more and more people came up with completely different reasons as to why Yuzu got shut down. There's gotta be some sort of reason, but no one can agree on what that point actually is. The only people that know why it got shut down was Nintendo, but people got really annoyed at Nintendo anyway because emulation is legal. This game was made in collaboration with Nagatenian, a Japanese food company who sold Super Mario themed food like curry and soup and tied it into Super Mario Bros. And Super Mario Bros. 3. The game is pretty much identical to the original Mario Bros. Arcade game, hence original Mario Bros. But there are differences between this version and the normal Famicom version. There's just ads placed throughout it. That's one of the major differences. Gary's mod is a masterpiece. I've loved playing this game ever since I was young. The creativity you could show off in this game was incredible. It being created in the Source engine, the home to some of my favorite games like the Portal games and Team Fortress 2, was just incredible. I hopped on the Gmod train right before the release of Gmod 13. I still remember playing the beta version of Gmod 13 that they released on Steam alongside the original version of the game, and I just had so much fun playing it. There's one there. Don't think I didn't see you. 2 more now. I don't think I've seen any over here yet. No, we're leaving them behind. It's like the best part of the game. And it even has cookie recipes built into the game. The Mario Wiki has archived all of these recipes if you want to try them yourself. And the cookies that you make are the ones that you actually see in the game itself, which is insane. For a game on the Super Famicom, this game has a lot of stuff chucked into it. Obviously, the actual main gameplay is just Yoshi's Cookie, but having all of this bonus content is incredible. I always remember having this add-on where the moon from The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask would come down after a certain amount of time, and the Super Mario RPG maps that I'd play on, there was so much stuff going on. It was truly a blessing to play this game and have this much stuff to do. But after a while, I honestly fell out of Gmod. all my friends stopped playing it after a while, and nothing the game ever did really brought me back to playing the game again.
But sometimes it really leads to the worst possible thing. Like owning James Cameron's Avatar the game for Nintendo Wii!
Hey gamers, it's me.
Did you hear that? The game just talked! What the hell is wrong with that thing? Rest in peace, video games. In another life, you could have been good. But every single studio just keeps stuffing up. Well, except for Nintendo. Well, Charlie! Yeah, John? We've got a problem. You need to travel back in time, look like your past self, and help save the multiverse. It's got something to do with Super Mario Odyssey, I think. You gotta do it, otherwise the multiverse will collapse. Well, luckily I already recorded myself playing Amnesia: The Dark Descent.
People were absolutely furious at Nintendo, as if Nintendo just murdered someone in cold blood. But some other people actually don't believe it came from Nintendo in the first place.
But before you all yell at me saying, no, it wasn't actually Nintendo, it was this other guy, or it was Nintendo, it wasn't this other guy, I'm not taking either side, I'm just explaining the situation.
An online troll by the name of Aaron Peters had been going around on the Steam Workshop pretending to be Nintendo, or at least a representative of Nintendo, sending out fake DMCAs to take down Nintendo related content on games that have a Steam Workshop community, mainly Team Fortress 2, Left 4 Dead 2, Source Filmmaker, and Gary's Mod. There had been all this evidence all over Twitter about a month before this announcement, showing that Aaron Peters had been recently trolling people with these fake DMCA takedowns, with people believing that these new ones were actually done by Aaron and not Nintendo. Now, it's incredibly hard to find out who actually took it down. Neither Nintendo or Aaron Peters have officially said anything on the matter whatsoever. But Gary, you know, the guy the mod's named after, came out and said that he checked, and it's officially from Nintendo.
The successor to the Nintendo Switch is coming up, and I can't wait. But honestly, we have no idea what's coming to the console. We can assume there'll be Metroid Prime 4, no doubt about that. But what else? What else is coming to the Nintendo Switch 2? Super Mario Bros. 3 released in Japan in 1988. And became the greatest game on the NES, and one of the greatest games of all time, as Super Mario Bros. 3 was Nintendo's magnum opus. Everything, especially all of their Mario games, had been leading up to the release of Super Mario Bros. 3. Before this, we had Super Mario Bros. 2 and 2, and for 2 out of these 3 games, they're just the same damn thing. One's just more harder than the other. So Nintendo needed something original. Something brand new as opposed to what we had before.
Slenderman! Slenderman! No! Slenderman! Get off the ground! Then there's the case of Metroid Prime 4. When's that game that was announced well over 5 years ago, if not more, actually coming out? There's still no release date. Maybe it's coming out on the new Switch alongside the old Switch. People just kept theorizing until finally, we had something. The new Nintendo Switch
will use magnets? Huh? So if we're trying to make a wish list that seems at all at least possible, we need those. The next obvious ones are a 3D Zelda game and Pokemon. These are a little bit more interesting. There has been a 3D Zelda game on almost every home console. However, the GameCube entry ended up releasing on the GameCube and the Wii, and the Wii U entry ended up releasing on the Wii U and the Switch. Of course, the Switch later got its own entry and so did the Wii, but it feels as if Zelda will fall into this trap again. Seemingly every Zelda takes a while to develop, so while I wish that there was a new Zelda, I think it's gonna take a little bit longer. Then we look at Pokemon. It's gonna happen. Doesn't mean it's gonna run well, but it will definitely happen. They experimented with making Super Mario Bros. 3 a top-down style of platformer, you know, like Sonic 3D Blast. But after trying that out, they figured out the obvious. Having the game being top-down would have just made the jumps harder and harder, and with Mario being Jumpman, making jumps harder would have just been a complete terrible idea.
Barrow! 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 Someone's coming. I don't care, I got Barrow. No, stop trying to turn me around, I have Barrow.
So currently we have 3D Mario, 2D Mario, Mario Kart, Mario Sports, Mario Party, 3D Zelda but at the tail end of the Switch 2, and Pokemon but eventually.
And suddenly, out of the blue, a new tweet from Nintendo's corporate account was posted. This is Furukawa, president of Nintendo. We will make an announcement about the successor to Nintendo Switch within this fiscal year. It will have been over 9 years since we announced the existence of the Nintendo Switch back in March 2015. We will be holding a Nintendo Direct this June regarding the Nintendo Switch software lineup for the latter half of 2014. But please be aware that there will be no mention of the Nintendo Switch successor during that presentation.
Oh my god, it's real? Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, they're making a new oh my god. Oh my god, they're making a new console. They're doing it.
5-year-long Joy-Con drift class action lawsuit has ended in a dismissal.
Well, they can't all be winners. That got weird. Just like how Microsoft technically helped release all these. I'll get to them one day. Well, luckily I helped save the multiverse according to John. So I think we're all good now. Thanks for warning me, John. And thank you for joining me on this Epic Games Roulette. Next time I think we need to play a few more than 4 games. But whatever we do, we cannot play Hell's Kitchen the game for Nintendo Wii.
The Sega Dreamcast, a masterpiece in technology. Famously, the console did not sell well in Australia whatsoever. Well, anywhere really. But there's actually one place where the console kinda sold, I guess okay, and that's Japan.
I've never seen a Dreamcast in the wild. I truly never have. Well, okay, that is a lie. But the only one I ever saw was so damn expensive that it was completely pointless to buy it. I didn't want to spend that much on a Dreamcast. So today, I'm traveling all the way to Japan to not only see how the game collecting space has changed, but to also find the dreaded Sega Dreamcast. So hi, I'm Charlie, I'm back, and I gotta go board a plane.
Super Mario Land 2 6 Golden Coins is the sequel to the classic Game Boy game, Super Mario Land, and is one of the most forgotten and underrated Mario games in the entire series. The original game Super Mario Land may have been a legendary Game Boy title, even if it's just an okay game, but Super Mario Land 2, oh boy, this one was different.
I was really hoping to see Final Fantasy Legend of Old School Final Grand Elder Star World of Zelda Warcraft Kingdom Call of Dark Half Breath Raid of I wonder if it'll get ported over. I wonder the same thing. Genuinely though, I really hope there's Mii's. If they aren't, I will burn down Nintendo headquarters. It is interesting that the Mii's kind of have died almost completely. Like there was Miitopia that had Mii's, and Mario Kart 8 and Smash Bros, like they have Mii's in it, but it's not really a major focus of Nintendo anymore. Instead they have sports mates, but I feel like they probably should bring back Mii's or some sort of thing that's pretty much the same thing. Not sports mates though, I mean something that is, you know, as good if not better than Mii's. So just Mii's.
Early in development, right after making Super Mario Bros. 1 in fact, Shigeru Miyamoto always thought that it would be a good idea for Mario to ride on some sort of animal, especially like a horse or something, so he drew up a concept and threw it on a wall. This idea would have Mario ride some sort of dinosaur-like creature, but according to the cutting room floor, the idea was shelved due to the limitations on the Famicom. So I set out to try and find a Sega Dreamcast for a low price, whether that be in person or on Sendico or something like that. But I could just never find a Dreamcast for a price that I wanted, so I knew what I had to do.
I need to go back to Japan.
Now when I went to Japan in 2023, I mainly went to the popular places to buy games. Places like Akihabara and other places within the city of Tokyo. And to be honest, the prices they had I thought were pretty good. Like yeah, the prices could be cheaper, but within the city of Tokyo I was finding Mario Game Boy games for like 300 yen, so it really wasn't that bad. There were also the introduction of the Koopalings. This was in an effort to create more and more enemies to the game and add diversity to the game. When the Koopalings were looked at by the developers of Nintendo of America, they decided to rename the Koopalings after musicians, like Ludwig von Koopa being named after Ludwig van Beethoven, just for a bit of fun. Ever since people like me started traveling to Japan specifically to find retro video games, and mainly the losers that buy them to try and sell them online for double the price on eBay, the prices in Super Potato kinda skyrocketed. But in 2023, Super Potato did still have some hidden gems in it. I bought a modded Famicom in one of the stores for an okay price, and I was happy paying that price due to knowing that the console would come with the premium of it being checked, tested, and modified so I could actually play the damn thing. I also found a Famicom disk drive for a cheapish price, and I thought that was really great too. Development for Super Mario Land 2 began after Super Mario World, with the director of the game being Herluigi Kiyotaki. Guys, I did probably pronounce that wrong, but you know, that guy.
More Joy-Con drift. Hell yeah! Emergency frog situation? Well, I need to see what this is.
Emergency frog situation!
Hi, I'm Charlie, and welcome back to 1988. I just came from the future using John's time machine, and we're using it to have a look at GTV July 1988, an early look at Super Mario Bros. 3. In Japan, the Famicom Tushin magazine, otherwise known as Famitsu, put out a VHS series known as Game TV. Their July 1988 VHS had a preview on Super Mario Bros. 3 while it was still being worked on. Let's put in the VHS and see what it has.
続いておりますが、ここで一息。野球ゲームの歴史を振り返ってみることにしましょう。
I don't know what just happened.
Now this time I went to Japan, I was a bit more prepared than the last time. Of course, I wasn't only going there for game collecting, but I knew the places, or at least the types of places I would go to. I knew that I had to go outside of Tokyo to find even better prices, and to find the coveted Sega Dreamcast I always wanted. My journey started in Osaka, with one of the first places I went to being a Super Potato that was about 5 minutes away from where I was. And when I went in, everything seemed about the same as last time. The prices seemed semi-reasonable, maybe a bit more expensive than usual, but not anything I didn't expect. But then I decided to go to some book-offs.
And the prices were genuinely insane. There were some games that were like 100 yen. I'd never seen actual games at this low prices. Genuinely.
Gunpei Yokoi was a producer on this game after being responsible for the first Mario Land with his R&D 1 team, and not the main Mario team. Super Mario Land 2 started development in November 1991 and ended in September 1992, making this game completely finished development in 10 months. These stores were so much cheaper than what Super Potato was doing. Let's just take a look.
Why do they have, like, this microwave's old, right? Like, what are we doing here?
Ah, Xenoblade. The series I've never played, but Shulk was my main in Super Smash Bros. For Wii U, so I guess I have some experience. Oh hell yeah, baseball! Well, that was a little sudden.
Xenosaga Episode 1 once again released in Japan and the US with no PAL release, and that sucks, but whatever. Xenosaga Episode 2 released in 2004 once again by Monolith Soft and Namco, with this game's director being Ko Arai, if I said that correctly. The game continues the plot from the previous game, and Xenosaga Episode 2 finally had a PAL release. Thank God.
And then there's a new power-up. The carrot. It's like if Kirby was Mario. Pretty much the same thing. Anyway, off to the zones.
I've got some stuff. I don't know if yeah, let's do this. Let's have a look at what I have. We've got Mario Party 6. Much cheaper than Australia. And then I got this baseball game for the, I don't have a Dreamcast, but I want to get one.
See, I told you I wanted a Dreamcast.
I decided to first start with the Turtle Zone, which is the underwater levels.
I thought I'd get out of the way what is most likely the worst levels, because I don't like water levels. I like snow levels, I don't like water levels.
The Xenosaga series was left behind.
Ha ha. Look, I didn't explain it before, but the time travel actually takes the entire desk with me. So, the next preview of Super Mario Bros. 3 happens today.
This early version of Super Mario Bros. 3 comes from Famimaga Video, otherwise known as the Family Computer Magazine. This video is straight up just a review of Super Mario Bros. 3, with once again ever so slight differences in the levels. It also just plays the wrong Mario theme. No.
Wait. Look, I don't think there's gonna be another 1-2 switch, but I think
then there'll be probably something that's sort of similar to 1-2 Switch, like a bit of a casual game that gets pretty mixed reviews. There'll probably be something like that, but it won't be 1-2 Switch, it'll be something else. Or maybe they will do, I don't know. I'm not Nintendo, I have no idea. Anyway, oh god! The Mario Zone! Yeah, they made an entire zone just out of Mario. The first level in the Mario Zone shows the inner workings of Mario's bottom half, with you jumping on gears and other things hiding inside that massive Mario. Once again, this is another theme that hadn't appeared in a Mario game before, and really the closest thing that they've had since is Tick-Tock Clock in Super Mario 64. The level is really just a blast. If you enter the top bell at the end of any level, you get access to a little minigame where you can get either a power-up or a certain amount of lives. This is quite a fun little bonus reward, but after a while you kind of figure out how to get the lives every single time. The next level in the Mario Zone, you're in the middle of Mario, who I guess is a big gumball machine because you're jumping on a bunch of balls. Maybe Nintendo should make a feature-length movie promoting the American release of Super Mario Bros. 3. Wouldn't that be something? Finally, Pikmin 4 came out to the Switch and became the first entry in the Pikmin series that people actually cared about. Shut up, Luigi! The final level takes place inside Mario's cap, and for some reason, it's made out of Lego. It's very similar to the previous level, but just Lego this time. Something tells me they kinda quickly ran out of ideas for the Mario Zone.
This is Pro Yaku Team 1. It's a baseball game. Intelligent Cube. I thought this was like a Japanese exclusive. Turns out, no it isn't. It was very cheap. Got Dissidia Final Fantasy. It's the Final Fantasy fighting game. Poke Park 2. Beyond the World, or Black and White, cause you get it. Everybody's Golf 4. I was gonna buy a PS2, but then they said it doesn't work. But I still got this. My thing's done. We got the Common Sense game with the Mii's in it. It's made by HAL Laboratory. Tennis, purely so I can do that glitch in Mario 1, Yoshi's Island, and Kirby and the Crystal Shards. Let's go! I think I was more excited about my burger being done. Now we move over to the Pumpkin Zone, which is full of scary levels. The first level mainly takes place inside of a spooky castle, with new enemies that have knives sticking out of them, and boos return from Super Mario Bros. 3 and Super Mario World. I guess that this level is really just a different interpretation on what ghost houses are, and I think that's what this game really feels like. It's just a different interpretation on what Mario is. It's not like completely different like Super Mario Bros. 2, but it's not the same as anything we've played before, but it also is. Team Lab Planets was an interesting place to go to in Tokyo. Seeing all the cool different rooms with all the different cool things in each one. It feels like you could spend literal hours in there just looking at all the different things they've got going on. Cool lights, cool balls, cool everything. This is genuinely a really cool place to go to. You do have to walk through water, which some people were complaining about on Reddit, but at the same time, it's Reddit. Do we really need to take anything they say seriously? But when they play on these arcade machines, they get help from the Nintendo helpline. What the hell is this movie, man? Then they go into a video game competition where the final game is the unreleased Super Mario Bros. 3. And then a bunch of other stuff happens. Funnily enough, this is the first movie that Tobey Maguire appeared in. How? But you know how I mentioned monkeys? I saw some, and we communicated. Now, as I was with the monkeys, they began telling me something only I would know how to understand. Firstly, they started telling me about Pandora or something, which I didn't really get, but then they started telling me something more important. They began to tell me that on the way back from the monkeys, there's going to be one book off that's so incredibly good that you're gonna want to go back and get off the train before you make your way back into inner Tokyo and check it out. They even told me, and I quote, that this book off is going to be the best book off you'll ever see. And I believed those monkeys. They're always up to something. Probably monkey business. Shut up, John. As the Japanese version of Super Mario Bros. 2 was too hard for Americans, so they found a different game from Nintendo's archives called Doki Doki Panic,
which came from a collaboration with Fuji Television as a part of an ongoing relationship that started with the release of All Night Nippon Super Mario Bros. And ended with Doki Doki Panic released for the Famicom Disk System. And then they turned that game into the American version of Super Mario Bros. 2 starring Mario, Luigi, Toad, and Princess Peach. Or as she was known in the US at the time, Princess Toadstool. But that led to there being a delay of Super Mario Bros. 3 because America didn't have Super Mario Bros. 2 yet. And so because they made this other game, Super Mario Bros. 2, it led to a delay of the game, technically, I guess. So we had to wait a little bit longer for Super Mario Bros. 3, but Super Mario Bros. 3 would have probably been delayed anyway because that's how just games worked in Japan and you know ROM chip shortages make it harder. They had to delay Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link.
What about a Hey Pikmin 2?
Wait. I know that sounds dumb, but hear me out. But of course, the Wizard was not received well. I mean, it was just a big ad for Nintendo. Like, it has its fans, but who wants to sit and watch an ad?
Mario! Mario!
Super Mario Bros. 3 was coming out in the rest of the world.
This level kind of annoyed me. You would be shocked how long it took me to get past this one boo. It was really, really annoying. They placed it in such an annoying place that it makes it almost impossible to avoid. But thankfully, I eventually got past it and could finally move on to finish the level.
But what I did do is buy it for $5 in 2015. Do you want to see it? It's right here. I bought it for $5. I mean, okay, look, as a proud owner of every single game in the Splatoon franchise, I love this franchise. And I think it's safe to say that Splatoon will continue.
Splatoon, man. These games are so good. But Splatoon 3 just seems too recent. I think Nintendo needs to let Splatoon 3 breathe for a bit. I think if anything they should just update the graphics to sort of re-release the game on the Switch too, not like do a full-on re-release where you have to pay a full price again, but just like if you have the old one, you can play it on the new one and we've updated the graphics a little bit. I think they should just do that. And then like, you know, I don't know. They should just stick with Splatoon 3 for a bit, Nintendo. Saw Randolph in a random alleyway vlogging, and then I went back to the apartment. When you can finally get a power-up that isn't just a mushroom, you're introduced to not a fire flower, but the Tanuki leaf.
Holy crap.
The Tanuki leaf introduced an entire new way to play the game. In Super Mario Bros. 1 or Lost Levels, you stay on the ground for pretty much the whole game, whereas the Tanuki Leaf introduces a whole new dimension to the game that you've never even thought about exploring before. It may sound silly now that a flying power was this revolutionary of a power-up that Mario had never done before, seeing as there's a new power-up that makes you fly in every Mario game that comes out, but the Tanuki Leaf was the very first time Mario could fly, and it was incredible. Once you walk in and walk to the video game section, you're greeted with rows and rows of video games. Yeah, they even had a whole row dedicated to the Wii U. That's how much stuff they had. It took me so long to get there, and now that I'm finally here, I feel like I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna find the Sega Dreamcast. Well, at EcoTown, I bought my stuff, I went back to the apartment to look through what I bought. Do you go forward on the world map to play 1-3 and 1-4, or do you skip straight to the castle? If you skip straight to the castle, you not only miss out on the Mushroom House, but also miss out on any secrets that may appear in those two levels. But if you go straight to the castle, you can get through the game quicker. What do you choose?
I mean, it's pretty obvious, no? The castle?
Wrong. If you go to 1-3, you can get a warp whistle, then skip all the way to World 8 after you also go in the castle. How fun! I mean, unless you want to actually play through the entire game, then that's pretty pointless. Well, okay then, let's continue. The second level has you in front of a house, running through the grass in front of it, which you can tell via the background, and then I think you go under the house through some pipes. I mean, it's a bit stinky, but hey, you're not meant to think about it. But where it gets interesting is the first boss fight. You get to fight Boom Boom.
Really? Boom Boom? The next level has you inside a house. I don't know what you expected.
It's pretty much a classic Super Mario level with the house theme. I think the house theme is a really cool idea for a Mario game, so it's really weird that they haven't come back to it. I've seen people on Twitter say they want a Splatoon racing game, and I think it would be perfect, and I think I've come up with the perfect idea of what they should do. Imagine a racing game that
although looks similar graphics-wise to Mario Kart, has a major difference with the karts you drive in being able to paint the ground for your first lap, then on your second and third lap you can go into the paint and create more paint. And then there's multiple racing teams, like Team Sonic Racing or Crash Team Racing or whatever that's called. And then you have to try and cover the most land in a team. And then, you know, it's like Splatoon, but you're in a car and it's a race. Wouldn't that be fun? I think that'd be a really cool idea. Or they can make a Splatoon 2D platformer. That could be kinda cool. It's such a breath of fresh air not having to fight the same guy over and over again. I mean, after the previous actual Mario game had Bowser 7 times in a row before actually getting to the real deal, it's nice to actually fight a few different enemies. Mario Party 1, Sim City, Mario Kart, Super Circuit, IQ Final, Donkey Kong, a Barrel Blast or Jet Race, Portal 2, Xenoblade, Yoshi's Cookie for the Famicom, Space Invaders, Yoshi for the Famicom. I think it's called Mario Superstar Baseball in the West, but here it's called Super Mario Stadium Miracle Baseball. And that brings us to the second castle. See, the plot of this game is to return all the kings of the different kingdoms into their human form as they were transferred into different animals. You're also supposed to ignore the fact that all of these kings kind of just look like Luigi. Mario's Tennis for the Virtual Boy, E-Reader, a Nintendo 64 Rumble Pack. We got some very disgusting memory cards here. The first one is for the PlayStation, a GameCube memory card, a little one. Super Mario Advance, Rockman 4, Mario Party 7, Nights into Dreams, a Sega Dreamcast. This is really cool. I have been looking for it for a while and it was the cheapest I found. Granted, I don't have a controller yet or the AV cords. But the AV cords would be easy. And I need a VMU as well. But I have the bulk of everything. So that's really cool to own. With there being 7 of them that were originally Bowser's kids, but now there aren't, but now they are, but now there aren't, but now they are, and now they aren't. Got it. Metroid Prime 4 and 2D Metroid. Maybe something else too. So, you've beaten World 1 of Super Mario Bros. 3. Congratulations! Proud of yourself? There's another level about a hippo, and we'll talk about it later. I'll admit, it took me a while to get this game to click for me, but I've been having these types of realizations a lot more often now. For the longest time, I just didn't get Donkey Kong Country, but recently I played the majority of the first game on official hardware, and my god, it just clicked. And I think Donkey Kong Country is a great game to compare this to. Both games truly reinvent the 2D platformer genre, using already pre-established characters, creating quite possibly the best 2D platformer in each of their respective franchises, and they just work. Both games have this feel of exploration that the other games just don't have. Granted, with Donkey Kong, his previous games aren't that complicated to figure out, but both Super Mario Bros. 3 and Donkey Kong Country feel like the next step for both of them. I think we need to quickly run through the other franchises that, you know, I can't really talk about for more than 10 seconds. New F-Zero or GX remake, WarioWare, no duh, Wario Land, please god, Donkey Kong 2D and 3D platformer, please and thank you with spin-offs, Advance Wars, or better yet, Switch 2 Wars, Pokemon, but good this time, Mario plus Rabbids, Big Brain Academy, but good this time, Mario Party, duh, Pokemon Snap, please, Mario Sports, but good, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, Brain Age, Clubhouse Games, Luigi's Mansion 4, Dr. Mario, Mario and Luigi, Box Boy, Smash Bros, Star Fox, please, Chibi Robo, Pushmo, Tomodachi, Kid Icarus, and Cruisin'. Did you know that Cruisin', yes, the series that has Cruisin' USA with its most recent entry being Cruisin' Blast, is actually half owned by Nintendo? I'll talk about it some other time, don't worry. But I want another one. Thanks, Nintendo. You're the best. How are you able to beat them if you don't have Google? Back in the day, you would have had to have owned a strategy guide to beat these levels, all called the Nintendo Helpline. You know, from the wizard. Hello?
Hey, how on God's green earth do you beat the World 7 castle in Super Mario Bros. 3? It's impossible.
Oh, for God's sakes, man. Let's just hope that the voltage is the same in Japan and Australia. I guess not. but the castle is honestly not that exciting. It actually feels very similar to Marble Zone from Sonic 1. It's pretty much the same thing, except first you need to fight some Wario balls. You jump on them twice and they die. Easy peasy. After the balls, you fight Wario. Wario is actually one of the easiest boss fights in this entire game. You jump on his head, and that's it. Then you fight Wario with the carrot power-up, with a render of Mario from Mario 3 in the background. Then you jump on that guy a few times, and then you fight Firepower Wario. You're never gonna guess how to beat him. You jump on his head a few times, then his hat falls off and he begins crying. He runs out of the castle, and then the castle turns back into Mario's castle. The end. Other than that, this game is fantastic. This game is truly a master in its craftsmanship, and truly is the best 2D Mario game. If only they didn't make the perfect Mario game right afterwards. God, I love you. The Game Boy Advance was Nintendo's most powerful handheld at the time, which meant that finally, all of those home console games could have some sort of a portable version on the handheld, and Mario Kart was no different. At this point in time, only Super Mario Kart and Mario Kart 64 was released, but Nintendo had figured out what they wanted from a Mario Kart, so they took the best of Mario Kart 64 and Super Mario Kart and merged it onto the Game Boy Advance, creating Mario Kart Super Circuit, the next Mario Kart in the series. Wii Sports Resort was the long-anticipated sequel to the Wii launch title Wii Sports, introducing several new sports, a whole new island that all the games take place on, and of course, the Wii Motion Plus accessory. All of this stuff packed into this little package seems impossible to be perfect. I mean, Wii Sports Resort is everyone's favorite game in the series, but there's no way that this game is perfect, right? Portal 2 is the greatest video game sequel, if not greatest video game of all time. From the story to the design to every single tiny detail, everything about Portal 2 is utterly perfect and just works. But why does it work? What inside the game makes Portal 2 work more so than any other game? Mario is one of, if not the biggest video game franchises in the world. Hosting a whole assortment of games under his belt, Mario will go down in history as one of the greatest game series of all time. But sometimes, Mario crosses over with other franchises. No, we're not talking Super Smash Bros., that's the obvious. We're talking about every single time Mario or a friend of Mario has appeared in a game that's completely different from the Mario franchise. Something truly unique and something truly weird. Video games can be in development for an extremely long time. I mean, look at Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild was announced as Zelda Wii U all the way back in 2014, and it took until 2017 for the game to actually come out. But some games take even longer than that, and they enter something known as development hell. Hi, I'm Charlie, I'm back, and let's enter development hell. What the hell was that? Oh, you've gotta be kidding me! They truly wanted to reinvent what Portal was with Portal 2, and it all began with a gameplay mechanic they called F-Stop. The main thing? Valve wanted to remove portals from Portal. Now, as ridiculously stupid as that sounds, as removing portals from Portal would just make the game into another game that Valve already makes, Half-Life, the story of Wii Sports Resort starts all the way back on the Super Nintendo, before they even created the first Wii Sports. Pilot Wings was a launch title for the SNES, at least in North America, all the way back in 1991. The game was huge for the Super Nintendo, really showing what the console could do. It really pushed the console to its limits in a really awesome way, showing almost 3D graphics on the Super Nintendo using something called Mode 7, which makes things look 3D. Mario Kart Super Circuit also came at an interesting time for Nintendo. The game released in 2001, so the GameCube was 2 seconds away from coming out. With the release of the GameCube, Nintendo was completely redesigning the way Mario looked, with Luigi's Mansion being the first game that took on that look. But even with this game releasing just 1 to 2 months earlier than the GameCube, the game took up the Nintendo 64 art style of the Mario characters instead of the new updated style. This island didn't really have all that much detail, but it did have a few key parts in it. It had a massive volcano-like mountain, a road that goes through said mountain, a town, and a bay. Look familiar? Well, that's because it eventually ended up being the island they use in Wii Fit.
Huh?
Wii Fit was the next big game in the Wii series if you ignore Wii Play, and had a running minigame where you run around an entire island. The manual for the game actually had a map of this island, with it being known as Wii Fit Island, or Wiffity Island for some reason, at least in Australia. A mod called Project Capture shows a lot of what f-stop was going to be like, and the type of puzzles that would appear. A lot of things would just involve a camera, because f-stop's a camera term, apertures, you get it. Whether that be taking a cube through a door or more, the camera was a major part of f-stop, along with old aperture and the guide being a guy that we'll talk about later in the video, instead of Gladys like from the first game. The idea was that this Woohoo Island could appear across several games, as it ended up doing in Wii Fit Plus, Pilot Wings Resort, Mario Kart 7, and Super Smash Bros. 4, just to name a few. The game looks most similar to Super Mario Kart than Mario Kart 64, but it actually does improve on what Super Mario Kart did. In Super Mario Kart, the actual game really only takes up half the screen. The second half is just a map. This is obviously because they wanted the second half of the screen to be used for the multiplayer sections of the game and couldn't figure out how to get rid of it, but it honestly ruins the game for me. Look, I can excuse the fact that it's in 2D, but the way that the game is presented, man, it just feels weird. In Mario Kart Super Circuit, you actually have the full screen, and even arrows pointing you in the direction that you're supposed to go. This honestly really fixes the problem that I had of you not knowing where you're supposed to be going in Super Mario Kart. I just couldn't stand it in that game.
The game starts with you jumping out of a plane after you've got the Wii Motion Plus attached, and you skydive down towards Woohoo Island.
Isn't this just my room?
Oh, I get it. I'm in development hell because I'm inside Hell's Kitchen, the game for Nintendo. I get it. Can I get out now? I mean, I may as well play the game. The music revs up, and you all open your parachutes. And then the name of the game is revealed. Wii Sports Resort. If that's not a perfect opening, I don't know what is.
Wii Sports Resort opens in such a magnificent way. It's quite possibly the best opening to any game on the Wii. At least the best opening to any Wii series game by far. I know I'm not actually ranking the opening, but that's S tier automatically. Have you ever played Gary's Mod? Gary's Mod is a mod for Half-Life 2 that has thousands of add-ons so you can download for it on the Steam Workshop. It showed all the wacky stuff that you could do within the Source engine, the engine that both Gary's Mod and Half-Life 2 are built on. But what if we put all of those wacky add-ons into the main version of Half-Life 2? So why did no one move on? Why did we still believe in Metroid Dread? Why do we think that Metroid Dread is coming out?
Is Metroid Dread ever coming out?
E3 2009 gave everyone hope as the press was shown Metroid Dread. This version of the game was more similar to Metroid Fusion and wasn't actually called Metroid Dread, but who cares? This was the first real promising sign that Nintendo were fully committed into making another 2D Metroid game. It's not a Metroid Prime, Retro Studios are busy working on Donkey Kong, Yoshi would eventually have his own game on the Wii U, Yoshi's Woolly World, but this is the first Yoshi level on the Wii U, and it's not bad. You of course play as Sonic with Yoshi staring at you on the gamepad, and you pick up eggs just like in a Yoshi's Island game. The level isn't really the greatest thing of all time, but it's interesting to see Sonic gameplay in a Yoshi level. It's really damn cool. Once you open the door, a core known as Wheatley appears. Wheatley is voiced by Stephen Merchant, well known for creating The Office alongside Ricky Gervais, and my god, his voice fits this character so well. Wheatley is very much a very cheeky core who tries to get away with several things that he says. He mainly introduces you to what the hell happened at Aperture Science while you were gone, and that's especially noticeable when Wheatley takes the little room you're in to the testing track.
Thank God it's not real, because I would be freaking out if I was actually there. We woke up in a room, then went back to sleep, woke up several years later, had Wheatley wake us up, go back to the test chambers of the original Portal, played some new test chambers, found some weird rooms, met back up with Wheatley, awoke Gladys, who then killed Wheatley, and threw you into the old fire pit. That's all within the first chapter of the game. In total, there's 9 chapters in the game. What the... We don't need a complete history of Portal.
right? I could talk about this all day. I mean, I did talk about it all day. But the one part you need to know about the history of Portal is that Portal is built upon Half-Life 2. Kinda. Because after it was built upon Half-Life 2, a lot of its own assets were added, which made Portal its own thing, even though it is set in the Half-Life universe. But what if we added Portal back into Half-Life 2? That can't be right. The room wasn't this red last time I saw it. Oh, so we're just discussing games that were in development hell, aren't we? Did any of you play the original Team Fortress? No, I'm not talking Team Fortress Classic, I'm talking the original Team Fortress. You know, the mod for Quake. Yeah, the Microsoft franchise Halo's Mashup Pack is available on the Wii U. God, it's weird. You can finally be Mario exploring the planets from the first Halo game. Isn't that something you've always wanted to do? Of course I have! And the radio plays a song called Exile Vilify. This song was performed by The National, an American rock band, and written by either Aaron Dessner or Matt Berninger. The internet can't decide. Matt is the person singing in the song, and it's beautiful. It seems like such a random inclusion in the game, just sitting in some random test chamber on a radio in a little den, but it actually has a hell of a lot of history surrounding it. Back during the development of Portal 2, there was an idea floating around about making the game have multiple endings, with some of the endings being right at the beginning of the game. One of these endings involved you shooting a portal on the moon. Foreshadowing. And you being sucked in, and then the credits roll. And the song, Exile Vilify, would be the song that plays during the credits of that ending. This ending, along with all the other endings that weren't the main ending, were removed because nobody was using them. They were just going to the main ending. And that makes perfect sense. I mean, what's the point? The new location of this song was found in Test Chamber 03, but it's meant to invoke the relationship between the player, Chell, and Gladys. The song is such a great listen, but it's very hard to find now. It was taken off of all streaming services, with the only place to find it, legally, in the game. All you have to do is, in House of the Dead's case, fire a gun, or in this game's case, swing your Wii remote, in order to kill everything that's in your way. Or in this game's case, I assume, knock them out, because no way they're killing people in Wii Sports Resort.
I made it all up. Surprise.
What the hell? Chapter 4 is a bit interesting. Every test chamber just feels huge compared to anything else we previously played. I don't know if that's the point of this chapter, but it's the first thing I noticed. Waveboarding sucks in this game. It honestly does. Like, okay, it's the best out of all of the water sports in this game, but that doesn't mean it's good. Wakeboarding has you hold the Wii Remote horizontal instead of the normal vertical, and you just tilt the Wii Remote up and down a little bit, and flip it and stuff like that. It's very simple. It's a very simple game. Look, Bedrock works okay on other platforms, at least in my eyes, but the Nintendo Switch version is just so slow. It can take several minutes to create a world, whereas on the Xbox and other platforms it's a lot faster. But regardless of all of that, we're here to talk about Mario. Yes, that's Frisbee with a registered R next to it. You gotta pay respects to the Frisbee. What the hell? Are we doing this again? Oh, hey Charlie. John, what the hell are you doing here? I've kind of just been hanging out, jumping around, wanting to talk about video games. Still, didn't we already do this? Look, if you could let me talk about one game, just one game, I'll be happy. I mean, sure, John, but I don't think that's gonna solve anything. God, they have everything in this dimension. There was the triple banana, the golden mushroom, the fake item box, and the golden mushroom again. Pretty interesting, I know. The golden mushroom doesn't really make that much sense to be in a portable Mario Kart game, especially this one, because the tracks are so small that It would just be a bad thing to use. Like, I don't know what you expect. It's the Mario Tennis Ultra Smash of this Wii Sports Resort. Because it's just archery, like how Mario Tennis Ultra Smash is just tennis. It's a funny reference, thank you. So yes, that brings the total amount of courses to 40. There's 40 different tracks in this game. And thankfully, at least in the Mario Kart Super Circuit courses, there isn't that many courses that are just literal repeats. There is 4 Bowser Castles for some reason, which I don't think I need to go over again how repetitive these types of courses are, but other than that, each course has its own unique identity, kinda. I think we need to take a quick break from all of the stuff that I've been telling you about these games. It's a lot of information that I've just unloaded on you. Okay, let's talk about some more games. Look, I honestly don't have that many memories with this Mario Kart, so I can't tell you if it's good or not. And I can't tell you if people enjoyed it when it came out. My first Mario Kart was Mario Kart Wii, but I have experiences from across the franchise. First, there's Brick. This one's pretty good. So in this campaign, you appear in a room and there's a brick. You know what you can do with that brick? You're not gonna believe this. You can pick it up. That's incredible. Shut up, John. Mario Kart Super Circuit sold almost 6 million copies and was the 4th best-selling Game Boy Advance game. I find that to be a little bit insane, but okay. People will say that this game was their favorite game from their childhood if they grew up in this era, or at least one of their favorites, but if you ask them to name one thing from this game, they probably can't. The game is just the little cousin that everyone forgets about. Mario Kart Super Circuit is just there. But that doesn't stop me. I thought I'd finally give this game a try after leaving it on my backlog for so long. And the game was truly okay. It wasn't fantastic, it was okay. I think I'm gonna annoy some people now. Both basketball games, they're decent.
What? I'm shocked and appalled.
I'm sorry, Funny Cameo, but they're just decent. If you're not into basketball that much, like me, then I'm pretty sure you're not going to really get that much out of Wii Sports Resort basketball. Each cup has the usual 4 tracks in it with 3 laps, but due to the game being this pseudo 3D style, all the tracks pretty much just feel the same. Even if the background and the graphics on the screen looks different, all the tracks are just loops. If I had to pick a favourite out of all the tracks in the first cup, Shy Guy Beach was actually quite nice. Due to the water slowing the car down and the crabs being on the path, it makes this track that ever so slightly more interesting than the previous ones. This track isn't just your typical Mario Kart Super Circuit track that's just a boring loop. It actually changes the way you play the track. Look, that's the one I think most of you are going to be able to accept. Yeah, okay. It's decent. Whatever. It beat you. But I imagine you think the other basketball game is god tier. It's incredible, it's amazing, it's the best thing ever created by humankind. 2-on-2 basketball though isn't that good though. It's just decent. Like the other one. The game also has the rank out system that I hate. It's a leftover from the fact that Mario Kart is based on arcade races, but it just doesn't really fit in Mario Kart, and I'm glad they got rid of it in later Mario Kart games. It really just sucks. But it's exactly the same. There's no difference. Wii Sports Resort Basketball is just as boring as its Switch Sports counterpart, which isn't that boring, it's just decent. Why do people like this version of basketball so much? I just don't get it, man. The next track is Sky Garden, which is really good. In Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Booster Course passed for the Nintendo Switch family of systems, but in Mario Kart Super Circuit, it's pretty mid. We got a man on the inside, and he's gonna get us out of here. And that's Portal 2. Once again, a fantastic game. But a pretty simple and boring ending, I can't lie. But at least we managed to defeat Gladys once again.
Actually, why do we have to leave right now?
I don't even know why I fell for that again. Wheatley then turns Gladys into a potato battery and shoves us down a bit after Gladys calls him a moron. Why would Wheatley do such a thing? I trusted him. I was wrong? And that's another reason why Portal 2 works. The characters are incredible. Each character that appears in the game is just so unique compared to the last, and you truly feel emotion whenever something happens to either Wheatley or Gladys. depending on what part of the game you're up to. The voice actors that play the characters, Stephen Merchant and Ellen McLean, just work so well. The character designs, everything about these characters works so well, and in just these few moments we're about to meet a whole new cast of characters, and once again, they, alongside everything else, makes Portal 2 work. Mario characters in NBA Street V3 is so funny. NBA Street V3 is an EA Sports classic basketball game that has nothing all that interesting about it. It's the same old basketball game you'd expect, but when they added Mario characters, it became a lot more interesting for me. I managed to make it so that my team, Mario, Luigi, and Peach, was fighting against Mario and Luigi and Peach. But you would think table tennis in Wii Sports Resort would be just as fun as the regular Wii Sports. It isn't! Table tennis has two modes. The first one being a normal game of table tennis, being the first to 6 points, so I guess not normal because they normally go higher than 6. It's normal. Thinking that it has something to do with when G-Man told Alex to prepare for unforeseen consequences. I don't know why the game gets me so mad, but it does. This game is just so annoying. I'm honestly not that big of a fan of the game, but I'll keep describing you my pain for entertainment because that's how this works. There's of course steamed hams where you can recreate steamed hams.
Well, Seymour, I made it, despite your directions.
It works exactly like the episode of The Simpsons. It's exactly like the episode. Exactly the same. Right? Shut up, John! This section does have its faults though, as in Chapter 7 we experience the worst test chamber put in any Portal game ever. This test chamber is single-handedly the worst thing I've ever had to play. The test chamber is so unbelievably hard, you're just given the white goo, a slightly tilted slab, and your goal is to get up to the top. It's just dumb. I hate it. I always have. Once you get to the top, Cave Johnson talks about combustible lemons. Okay. Or Half-Life 2, Episode 3.
Открывай, сука, Новый год, блядь!
Brilliant. But that's not all. Half-Life 2 Episode 3 has more to offer. Okay, not that much. Skylanders. You actually gonna watch it this time? Bowling was my favorite game in the original Wii Sports. No questions asked. I played that damn thing to death. I wasn't like amazing at it or anything, but the original bowling was just so much fun. Wii Sports Resort, as I said earlier, actually has 3 games within the bowling category. With the first one, arguably the one that you probably care the most about, being regular, good old bowling. Regular bowling is exactly the same as Wii Sports Bowling. You just add a different place now. The only difference is that Wii Sports Resort Bowling is actually a lot more accurate to what you're doing, which you wouldn't think would be a problem, but it was for me. The way I played Wii Sports regular bowling involved me not really bowling properly, and that's what helped me constantly get strikes and all that. So when I first tried Wii Sports Resort a few months after it came out, I just really didn't like the bowling in it. I was a fan of the second mode of bowling, which I'll tell you about in a bit, but the Resort regular bowling really stuffed me up. I'd always just play the original Wii Sports instead if I wanted to play bowling. It just worked so much better in that game. I wonder what could be at the end. Is it cake? Shut up, John. How did you even get here? Aren't you meant to be in prison? However, I don't have anyone to play with. Luigi? Yeah, he doesn't seem interested. Ribbon Road. That track is just so much fun to look at. I like the fact that this track actually loops around itself, which to be fair is exactly what Cheeseland does, but this one just feels more fun. I don't really have a problem with this track except for the fact that they obviously didn't code Lakitu properly, which leads to me being taken into the middle of an abyss, so that's fun. But other than that, Ribbon Road was okay. Air Sports has 3 games, 2 of which are single player games, because Luigi doesn't want to actually do anything, do you? Thought so. Mario Kart Super Circuit is one of the Mario Karts of all time. That's all I can say. I don't really have that much experience with this one. I have experience with Mario Kart Double Dash and Mario Kart 64 and pretty much all of the other games in the series, but when it comes to Mario Kart Super Circuit, it's just the other one. It's just truly a nothing game. I don't know what else to say. So come back next time when we'll talk about Mario Kart Double Dash. Adios! Wii Sports Resort may not be perfect, because if it was then everything would be an S tier, but it's the clear winner when you compare any of the other Wii Sports or Nintendo Switch Sports games. No other Wii Sports has lived up to what Wii Sports Resort did. Hell, I'm a defender of Nintendo Switch Sports, but this game is like significantly better. Nothing can ever beat Wii Sports Resort. It's just not possible. Wait, Luigi's staring at me. What do you want? I think he's telling me there's a message in the tissue box. Oh my god, Nintendo's making Wii Sports Resort HD! Finally! You gotta hit that stalemate button in order to make everything happen. Everything's so quick. You feel like you're going in slow motion. You feel as if everything is just happening in your own time, even though it's very, very quick. Once you get to the button, you're blown up. The button was trapped, and something opens, revealing the moon. I lost? No, idiot! Shoot for the moon! Literally! You literally have to shoot a portal on the moon, and then Wheatley and you get sent through. You're so close to being sent into the middle of space, dying, but at the last second, Gladys saves you, and you're pulled back into the facility. Gladys sets you free. I mean, first you need to hear an opera performance by some turrets, but you're free. Gladys deletes Carolyn from her system, she starts up the co-op testing initiative, and she sings one more song about how she wants you gone. Okay, now we're actually at the end of Portal 2. There are no false endings this time. This is the end. Introducing Half-Life 2 Remastered.
Rise and shine, Mr. Freeman. Rise and shine. Not that I wish to imply you have been sleeping on the job.
That wasn't it. I don't know what the hell that was, but that was not Half-Life 2 Remastered. Can we try that one again? But now, I have to beat the final game in the Portal trilogy. Does this even count? This crossover is just absolutely insane. There's a special game mode that just adds mushrooms to the game, with each mushroom doing something different. A super mushroom makes you large, a mega mushroom makes you mega, the poison mushroom makes you small and deals damage to you, and the power star makes you invincible. Playing Tekken in this way is just so much fun. A game that, although doesn't take itself too seriously anyway, I mean for God's sakes, one of the characters is just a panda, taken to a whole new level of stupid is just so cool. I really enjoyed playing through all 6 levels dressing up as all the characters from Mario, absolutely destroying my opponent by pushing them into poison mushrooms, almost knocking them out within 10 seconds. It was just so much fun. Nintendo was so clearly really pushing for anything to be on the Wii U, which led to the most ridiculous things I have ever seen. So what do you want to see Mario crossover with? I have this really good idea that I want to pitch to Nintendo. It's basically Mario and Sonic going to the Olympic Games. You gotta be kidding me. I don't know what I'm about to see, but I think it's gonna be hell. You shouldn't come here. Well, that's just great. What are my footsteps, man? Die. Uh-oh. 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 Oh, boy, yeah. Oh, what is that? What is that? What is that? What is that? What was that? There we go. You should be able to go home now, Charlie. So that's all you needed to do. Talk about video games. Weird. Can I go home now? Yep. Well, thank you for letting me know. Go to that portal over there. See you later, John. I feel like a crazy person. Development hell was just my room, wasn't it? The desk. Doesn't it feel like things keep disappearing from here? But it would just be nice if a Half-Life 3 was ever truly made. That's truly all I want. Hi, I'm Charlie, I'm back.
Hello, Charlie.
John, how could that be you? You're right there. Yeah, I'm right here.
I've been waiting a while for this. Pandora's open, Charlie. Pandora's open.
What the hell could that mean?